the black hole. Sing for my soul. Through the black hole. To make myself whole again. I'll give you my love. Can't give you my love. No, I'll give you my love. Can't give you my love. I'll give you my love. Into the black hole. Sing for my soul. Through the black hole. To make myself whole again.
Good evening, brothers, sisters, and gender-normal sisters. It's time for another Pirates of the Geek Vortex podcast with me, your host, Ollamh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, it's Friday again, so we're back in it to win it. Though I'm not going to necessarily be the host because I'm going to actually hand that over to Caden for the topic of the day. But let's get in and see what all's been going on with everybody this week.
Yellow.
Hello.
Oh,
And how has everybody been doing this week?
mostly sleeping.
Catching up on work projects.
Fun. I can respect the mostly sleeping. The way the weather's been the past week, it's one day it's 60, next day it's 80, a couple days later it's down in the 60s again, and it's only supposed to get up at like into the 50s tomorrow. It's Illinois spring, which means nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Pretty
I should
much.
I've been sleeping during the day because at night I'm staying awake.
Yeah, that's normal for me when like I've said before, when the weather gets warm. Yeah, I go to sleep usually when the sun's starting to come up, and then it's like, all right, I just sleep for 8 hours, then get up.
Yeah. I was just discussing with Ras my disgust at playing Assassin's Creed Origin and then suddenly coming across a Final Fantasy 15 reference.
It's worse than you think. There is a Final Fantasy 15 crossover every so often in Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, but see, that at least makes sense. That's at least the same company and the same series.
Yeah, you don't find a random chocobo. You should not be finding a random chocobo in Assassin's Creed.
You should not, and if they're going to, they should at least give you the car.
Yeah, it's worse than that. I was telling him that they give you a sword, a shield, and a chocobo mount. But because it's Ubisoft and they want to cut corners, they didn't bother getting a custom skeleton for the chocobo. So it's just a chocobo texture on a camel.
Sounds about right, yeah. See, I don't know if anybody saw the general chat earlier, but I got my first. Most tweeters don't reply like this warning.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was laughing.
All because basically I called somebody who paid for the blue check mark an idiot. And it's like, oh no, most people don't. Most tweeters don't make responses like. It's like, yeah, they do. Trust me, they do.
Most people on Twitter don't blatantly call people an idiots. That's Twitter. That's what you made it for.
Well, no, I mean, specifically, people will call anybody who pays for the blue check mark an idiot. That is the majority of Twitter.
Well, yeah.
But of course,
And,
Elon
like-
Musk's got to do his shit. No, don't insult the people that praise me. He is like a walking, talking cringe factory these days. Well, I think he's always been, but it's gotten worse.
I hate how many of these quests involve snakes.
Well, you are in Egypt.
No. It's the fact that I am in Egypt, and I'm a Magi, and I'm like, I must honor all the gods. And then every time there's a cobra, he's like, I have to murder every cobra. And that part of me is sitting here like, but I worship snakes. I should not be murdering them. Yes, thank you. Put your shield down, coward. Did you bring more cobras to the fight?
Hey, you can always use more cobras.
Apparently that's their plan, is like, we need to run the Greeks out of this Greek city. So we're going to just bring cobras and blame the Egyptian god of cobras.
Well, it makes a certain kind of logic.
Yes, you did in fact bring more cobras to the fight. What were you planning on doing with them? It's been that kind of day. I almost threw my controller when they made the Conan reference.
Yeah. They do love their references. Not as much as BioWare. I mean, at least BioWare sticks within their company for the most part.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm pretty sure we've touched upon it. There's good references, and then there's just no.
When I played the first Castlevania in the reboot, and I can't believe they rebooted Castlevania, there were Portal references. Like, Konami, you have no business going there. Either start making games again or stick to pachinko jokes.
So okay, so I had to kind of dance around the actual topic, as far as like the title of the episode and the description and stuff, because yeah, YouTube just does not like anybody just saying, oh hey, we're talking about mental illness in any fashion.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's our topic for today is mental illness in various different media, and of course Caden was the one that brought this up, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you take the lead today.
I listened to that podcast. You were the one with the idea for this.
You're the one that ran with it.
Well, yeah, because that's psychology, and that makes me happy. Yeah, I started actually writing down a list of things we had mentioned, so that like we had starting off points. So where would you like to start? Would you like to start in specific examples, or would you like to start with the how we portray it, and why can't we just let a monster be a monster?
Well, I don't know. That's a really good question. How do you start something like this? I mean, I think one of the things, if I remember right, one of the things that really kind of was a, hey, this would make a pretty good topic for me was, I think we were talking about Moon Knight at some point.
We did mention Moon Knight, but that was way before we decided to make it a topic.
But Moon Knight really does kind of, it really focuses, it kind of focuses awkwardly on
Oh, yeah.
specific mental illness, and that was one of the instances of where it's really beneficial for a character.
And I was going to mention Moon Knight, but I was like, but I don't know much about Moon Knight. I never read the comics. I don't watch the series. And I am still a little fuzzy on if he had genuine schizophrenia before he got possessed or if it just developed afterwards. So,
well, as far as the show goes, he had it before he accepted being an avatar for Khonshu.
One day I will finally have the time to sit down and watch the new Moon Knight. I read a bit of his comics. The Gothsicles actually years ago had a song dedicated to Moon Knight, which is just called Moon Knight is Cool. It includes the lyrics, "He's Batman times 3.
Kind of, yeah. So, provided nobody minds spoilers, I mean, I think we all kind of get the gist of the character at least.
Right.
yeah.
But one of the things that I always thought that I thought was weird with how it was done in the show and how, the responses to the show were people like, okay, so there's Mark Spector and there's Stephen Grant, two different personalities in the same body. And anybody who read the comics or, really paid attention noticed that, well, there's a third one in there somewhere by the name of Jake Lockley. But everybody's like, but where did Jake Lockley come from? They show the origin, Mark Spector is the original personality. And then in his childhood, his mother became excessively abusive towards him. And that was what caused him to the personality split that created the character of Stephen Grant, because Stephen Grant was this archaeology, kind of like an Indiana Jones type character. And they show that in the series. They show, they specifically show Stephen Grant being created. But what most people missed was the fact that Stephen Grant was created as as Mark's mother was pounding on the door. And all of a sudden, Stephen's like, oh, this place is a mess. I better tidy up. Mom will be mad. But the personality of Stephen Grant doesn't remember his mother ever being abusive or beating him.
Yeah, so that would be the, what did we call that? Not a shelter personality. But it's one that specifically exists in order to repress that and forget that it ever happened.
But that's the thing, is Stephen Grant, the personality that was created, doesn't remember it either. Which means Stephen Grant, at the point where his mother started the beating, he was split off, and that was the creation of Jake Lockley. The personality of Jake Lockley is just there to take the beatings. Which also explains why Jake Lockley is the badass of the trio. He is the one that just does not care. He shows up very rarely and basically only really shows up when both Mark Spector and Stephen Grant are getting their asses kicked. And then Lockley pops up and just goes completely batshit insane and beats and kills everybody, and both of the other two personalities are like, whoa, what did you do? And they're like, okay, I didn't do this, you didn't do that, who did this? But it goes a long way to explaining why that third personality is the way it is, why neither of them really remember him, because he only shows up when both of them are like, nope, can't handle this shit, I'm out.
Yeah.
But that's what winds up saving their lives several times through the series, is literally just, it's too much for them to handle, so along comes Lockley, and he's just like, all right, boys, you guys take back seat, I'll handle this. again, and like I said, I think it's kind of an interesting one because, like I said, it really shows that, hey, it's not exactly a good way of dealing with it, but it does wind up being, this version of mental illness actually does wind up helping the characters out a lot.
Yeah, again, I'm not much to weigh in on this one, not knowing the source material as well.
But we were primarily thinking of video games with reference to this, right?
You can, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned a couple games, and I was thinking of a couple others.
I thought for a second of mentioning a game I don't think deals with mental illness well. And that is your general Call of Cthulhu games.
Yeah.
It's their idea of madness is just, it's not specific madness. It's not. If you were going to get some sort of, presumably a PTSD after having dealt with Cthulhu itself, what form would that take? I don't think you would just be a gibbering mess. I think it would be something very specific. Because you are looking at something that makes you question reality.
Yeah. Well, I think I saw that best explained. Someone was saying that a lot of people get Eldritch horror wrong because they think it's just you've seen something and it breaks your mind because your mind can't comprehend it. And they're like, no, that's not what that is. Eldritch horror is when you have been elevated to a state of being where you have seen these things that you have never seen before and you can understand them and you see the truth of things. You see things how they really are, all these facets and levels that your mortal mind never would have seen. And then you're reduced back to it and you cannot comprehend not ever seeing that again. That's when your mind breaks.
But if your mind manages to not break from that strain, from, say, seeing Cthulhu, the games have never handled it well. I'm sorry, I saw the Eldritch Lord of the Deep there. I'm not going to freak on seeing a deep one unless, they're actively attacking me or something.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, and by that point, it'd just be a mild interest. You'd be like, oh, I've seen bigger.
Yeah, you'd be inured. It's like, oh, you're a human-fish hybrid. Well, damn, now I might stop eating fish if I think that's possible. What if I'm related to one? And that's the end of it. But yeah, it's like, there should be an inurement at some point of, I've seen this much, you're going to try breaking me with what? That's adorable.
See, that's... The Cthulhu stuff, I mean, well, again, remember who we're talking about as far as who wrote the base stuff.
Yes, yeah. But then you have to ask yourself, then who's adapting it? Because he never came up with game stats for this stuff. That was first a thing in tabletop and later a thing in video games.
True, but if I remember correctly, didn't he deal with basically somebody who, hey, if he did more or less set the rules of these things will drive you fucking crazy.
He did.
So it's still kind of his deal. It's changed a little bit as far as, well, now we have specific rules about it, but the general idea is still Lovecraft's.
When characters go insane in Lovecraft works, it's because the story calls for it. When characters go insane in Lovecraft games, it could be because the story called for it, or it could be because someone rolled poorly.
Yeah, there's not really any rules. In a Lovecraft game, you can go crazy just by waking up in the morning.
Yeah. But my thing is it's like, it's not, it would be kind of like saying, it would be kind of like adapting, say, the Game of Thrones novels, but you're leaving out dragons. You really can't do that. it's that
The real boring murder plot.
yeah. It's like, it's established that yes, there's an element of potentially going insane from dealing with these things. You have to address that in a game involving Lovecraft's works. Now maybe it wasn't done, maybe the rules were a little bit skewed, but it's like it's still one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's something that is generally accepted. It's probably going to happen.
And then there's, games that can do mental illness well or directly deal with it. I mean, people have been talking about, it was released a few years ago, Senua's Sacrifice on this for a bit. Which is where you're directly playing someone dealing with mental illness in the wake of, well, grief.
I don't think I've heard of that one, actually.
I've watched reviews, a bit of Let's Play. I don't think I've ever heard a bad review, but I have to admit I've never played it myself. It's basically, how do I put this? Oh, God, what's the Greek version of the guy who goes to Hades, to Tartarus, to try and bring back his wife?
Greek?
Yes, because this is a Norse version of that.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, the son of Hypnos, Orpheus, I believe.
Yes, Orpheus is the one. You're right.
Yeah.
And this is a Norse version. You play a woman named Senua. She's trying to save her deceased partner, and she, is dealing with schizophrenia, severe grief, depression throughout the entirety of the game, and her mental state affects your control of the character.
Okay. See, that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's something that's not necessarily in the original story, but it explains that story a lot better. It kind of adds to it and makes it a bit more relatable.
Right. So, like I said, I'm afraid I can't voice a first-hand opinion of the game, aside from Let's Plays I've viewed. It is pretty damn dark, which, in a game dealing with depression and grief, well, that's fitting.
There was a period there that was like, yeah, there were a lot of indie games that were just, oh wow, they just decided to go full in on the whole on the idea of mental illness and stuff like that. Like what was it? There was Amnesia, the Amnesia games that very much had that same type of feel of the Lovecraftian type stuff, where it's like, hey, you're dealing with a lot of shit, and yeah, it's very easy to just completely lose your shit.
Yeah.
I remember
It's new resurgent theme, honestly, is the kind of Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah. I remember there was one that it was absolutely just it was actually kind of traumatizing. I think it was called Among the Sleep.
I know the name. Is that the one where it's the painter and his wife is haunting him, but it's not actually his wife?
No, this one is the one that I'm thinking of is basically you play as a baby who has this like haunting monster chasing after them.
And
Okay.
yeah, oh, I've heard about. Yeah, let us not spoil this one for the audience, but damn, that takes some twists and turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I had heard of it, but I had never checked it out. So
I mean,
sometimes
that's a
without
pretty
a-
old game too.
yeah,
It is, but it's obscure enough that I don't think we want to spoil anyone who will have just heard about its existence from us.
Fair enough, I suppose. I mean, yeah, it's. I know it made the rounds on YouTube for Let's Plays and stuff. Back when it, well, hell, even when it was still an alpha, people were like, okay, well, what is this game? It's like, huh. And then when the full thing came out, they're just kind of like, okay, so yeah, okay, so I played it. It was a thing, and I never want to look at it again. It's a it is very much a traumatizing type of game.
yeah.
I have no mouth and I must scream. Try delving into this kind of thing. The point and click adventure game is what I'm talking about in this
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, yeah. The book did it well because it's a book, and you can visualize things, and it gets into your brain. The game was just it was so heavy-handed.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think I think with the game, one of the benefits of the game, at least, is they can bring in other, they can bring in other cues as far as, this is something that's supposed to be traumatizing, like, saying that you can read that somebody is hearing the screams of these people in this situation. But in the game, you can read that somebody's saying that, and you're actually hearing the screams. That's
Yeah. Well, there's also some that they seem silly in text, but once you actually see it played out, you realize how horrible it'd be.
Like
the guy.
primal. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the primal, the one that has no interest in women. I forget what his actual crime was according to Am, but then he gets turned into a gorilla with extra large genitals, and then paired with the woman who Am has made a totally amorous person, and that's his punishment. I was like, see, when you say it out loud, most people aren't going to realize, hey, that's fucking horrifying. But then when you see it played out, you realize, oh.
yeah.
I actually wasn't going primal there. I was. If you want to hear a scream, the primal stuff from the Evangelion anime.
Yeah.
Properly voice acted trauma.
If I remember right, the primal guy was he was a Vietnam vet.
Was he?
He was a Vietnam vet that basically he betrayed his fellow soldiers and eventually wound up cannibalizing, eating them to survive.
Hold on, let me look here. You might be right. I just want to double check.
And that's why it was, you were nothing more than an animal.
No, Benny was a scientist.
Benny was?
Yeah, it says Benny, a once brilliant, handsome scientist, has been mutilated and transformed by Am so that he resembles a grotesque Samari with gigantic sexual organs. Benny at some point lost his sanity completely and regressed to a childlike temperament, and his former homosexuality has been altered so now that he now regularly engages in coitus with Ellen. There actually is no Vietnam veterans in this one.
Really? That's
There's the Allied Master Computer, which is supposed to manage the weapons and troops in a Cold War now World War, between the United States, the Soviet Union, and China. And then you have Gorister. It says Gorister was once an idealist and a pacifist before AM made him apathetic and listless. Benny, who is the gorilla. Nimdok.
Okay, you're looking at the book, though.
Am I? No, let me look. Adaptations. Where's the game? Computer game.
Yeah, because the book says Benny has been most heavily altered from the original story. Although he has ape-like appearance, just as in the story, his past as a homosexual scientist is entirely altered, and he does not have the giant sexual organs like in the original story.
Yeah, that would make because they wouldn't have been able to put that in a game back then.
Yeah, in the game, Benny was an overly demanding military officer who ends up killing members of his unit for failing to meet his expectations. Benny's psychodrama places him in a Stone Age community where the villagers draw a lottery to decide which among them will be sacrificed to Anne. Benny obsesses over food and eating, but is incapable of chewing anything that he finds. That's very broad stroke, but yeah, if I remember right, yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of the him not being able to eat as far as that. Oh no. Yeah. So yeah, when he kills members of his unit from failing to meet his expectations, with the game also implying that he may have cannibalized them.
Funny how we took as something that's like, oh, we can't put that in because politics and sexuality, and then we just made it even more horrifying.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah. Well,
think of the children that won't be playing this game because it's rated adult.
That didn't so much matter back in the day.
Oh, I know. I was just saying, it's another think of the children as we put in something that's like 4 times as bad for the children.
Yeah.
Let's see. I know we mentioned specific examples. What did we mention? Oh, we did mention we were going to talk about Fallout and the schizophrenia.
Oh, for the
Nightkin and the Super Mutants.
Yeah.
I love that we've taken a diametrically opposite and yet same stance on those.
And hello there, gamers. I see you in the chat there.
So yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned it last time is while we were talking about the rules for the RPG I was making, is that you would think if you're going to say that the ghouls and super mutants are actually immune to all radiation, that the stealth boys wouldn't have done shit.
Yeah.
But apparently...
Yeah, because it's like it really doesn't make any sense as far as the radiation from that causing a problem. It's like, but they're supposed to be immune. So what is it?
There's a crippling disease called inconsistency.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the storyline where they wrote the one guy who was trying to find a cure, and he's like, if I go to these, what were they called? Night Stalkers?
Night.
But these like, no, the other ones.
Oh.
The creatures that can cloak naturally.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. They are Night Stalkers.
Yeah, he's like, these things have adapted for it, so maybe I could find a cure for the schizophrenia in them. I was like, I don't know how that works if it's natural camouflage, but okay.
Yeah.
And then you find Stealth Boy Mark II did it. He's like, I can't find the cure because of this. Why not? Now you would know exactly what to look for.
Right? No worries, gamers. I was kind of wondering if you were, if I kind of figured something was going on. Yeah, I understand all too well as far as, like, you know, relatives not understanding the importance of good internet.
Yeah, I was arguing with my laptop earlier. I was like, "Yay, I get to podcast." Wait, why? No, live stream tonight. Because all I heard was my Discord just like connecting, disconnect, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect.
Oh, right before, like, I think it was like half an hour before we started, my internet just completely cut out for like a minute.
Yeah. Well, the problem with living with family is that we all have to share the same router. And if even one person's device decides, hey, I don't want to connect, they don't just play with their device to see if it's just a portal. No, they go and reset the entire router. So I'm like, great, now we're all kicked off, and now I got to sit here for the next half hour resetting all this shit. Thanks.
See, for me, it usually, you know, anytime my computer doesn't connect, it's like, oh no, it's normally it's the modem that's just, you know, it's been going for a month or so straight without any kind of a reset. So it's like, all right, it's time.
Excuse me, I would like new data packets.
Oh, but yeah, it's. I mean, the Nightkin are kind of an interesting one because it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I could kind of see that causing a certain level of schizophrenia, especially as far as paranoia and stuff, because for the longest time they're used to not being seen. I mean, with how many of them it's supposedly were like, oh no, we just turn it on, just leave it on. We don't want to be seen. And it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, but you know, then it's like, well, what happens when now their self voids are taken away? Now they're seen all the time, and they're. I could definitely see that being like, oh no, not comfortable with this. I'm not okay with this.
And really, the only person you get to see who has like actual dialogue that points towards the schizophrenia is Lily. And she's easily missable because you don't have to recruit her as a companion. She's optional. So the rest of the Nightkin, yeah, it just seems like, oh, well, we don't want to be seen. You know, that's just it. We like the stealth now, and we've just grown accustomed to it. And then you get to Lily and realize, like, no, she's actually got like 3 or 4 voices in there with her, and she is constantly struggling.
Yeah, she's gone far off the deep end.
Yeah. I actually like her logic. I mean, I was waiting for them to just, in true Fallout fashion, give her a completely lucid moment to say it, but he's like, oh no, if we use the Stealth Boy 2.0, you know, it might make this worse. It could make everything worse. It could even kill you. And she's like, yeah, okay. I was like, okay. I mean, it would have been cool if you just turned her into a standard Nightkin where she was like, what could you possibly do to me that is worse than what's happening right now?
Exactly. It's like, yeah, that's supposed to be kind of their thing. It's like, yeah, okay. We're okay with that. It's either way, we are going to find peace.
Yeah. It's like, look, if I get more insane, what am I going to care? I'm insane. If I die, what do I care? I don't have to hear the voices anymore.
And if it quiets them down, again, I don't have to worry about hearing the voices.
It's like, if you happen to find the cure, good! Great! I do not see a loss situation. And honestly, I kind of found it funny that there are so many cults and just random religious nuts in Fallout that I'm surprised we didn't find anybody worshiping a stealth boy.
Yeah. Trying to think of more examples now.
Oh, I got a list. We've got Repo, we've got Heather's, Assassin's Creed, Misery, Persona 5.
May I add one to the list that handled it both well and poorly, depending on
Go
the
ahead.
instance? Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1.
I
I
would
say
say
one.
Vampire in general, but yeah.
There are bits of it that deal with madness well, but that usually involves problems with humans or NPCs. And then if you play a Malkavian PC vampire, that goes... It does not handle quote-unquote madness of the Malkavians well.
Yeah. Jose, remember I haven't actually played Vampire, but I used to like obsess over the rulebook to Masquerade. I never understood how the Malkavian dynamic was actually balanced. Because the description makes it sound badass, but the actual mechanics was kind of like, doesn't sound like I just read.
I've seen all sorts of Malkavian PCs in LARPs. I was in a vampire LARP for about 4 years as a gangrel. And in that time, I saw many examples of Malkavians, some absolutely amazing, and some needing to be told, no, back to the writing room with you.
Yeah.
One of the more interesting ones was a Malkavian with multiple, dissociative personality disorder. We usually call it multiple personalities. But the idea was multiple players of the same character. So one person would be in timeout, the Malkavian, having enough obfuscate, would throw up another face when another personality took over. And that meant, okay, other player takes over now and has no memory of what that character just did. Or sometimes the character would have the same appearance and they would wear a tag to say, looks exactly like the person, this person. And people would come up to them and say, hi, this, and this, and they would go, what are you talking about? I don't remember any of this. And it's like, I don't know how close to dissociative identity disorder that is, but my gods, that was a good way to do it.
I dropped out of psychology. I just dropped out of college, so I'm no expert, but that can be close depending on the personality and why it's there, especially in trauma situations. Because, like I was saying with Moon Knight, there are times where the personality will manifest specifically in order to deal with traumatic situations, and in order to pad the main personality, it will actually blank out any memory of what happened while it was in control. So it just immediately represses it.
I've heard of that. There was a character in Dark Sun, an half-elf, half-halfling, basically looked mostly like a half-elf, half-human, given the nature of Dark Sun, but had 20-something personalities. Turns out, as you go through the series, the character is psychic. When his entire village had been killed, he absorbed a whole bunch of personalities from them.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It's the Nomad trilogy. You find out, real early on that this is a thing, so I'm not really spoiling much. It doesn't play as well today as it did then because of a lot of the other things they handled throughout the series, but pretty good for a 90s post-apocalyptic D&D setting.
I could see that, yeah.
He then wound up in one of their anthology series later, as a continuation of his storyline, which really didn't go much of anywhere. So,
Yeah, they tend to have a very a very hard time of letting characters go.
I mean, Dragonlance has mostly figured this out. Wason and Hickman, when they came back to their series after leaving it in someone else's hands for a bit, promptly killed off several characters. And brought back one just to have them stick around a couple of books and then finally kill them because their first death had been pretty ambiguous. So they wanted to say, okay, now we're going to make sure that gets settled. I'm not going to give spoilers on those because I am literally just meeting people who are just getting into the Dragonlance books from the 80s. Like, I had a lot of things spoiled for me, and a few were my own fault, like reading the original Chronicles trilogy out of order.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
And some things just happened because I read the D&D source material campaign setting first, and it will come with spoilers, just because, you know, it has a timeline, and you read that timeline, and it's, well, I didn't need to read this trilogy. That said, but yes, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, if you play the Malkavian, oh gods. If you see the Malkavians in game, oh wow. Because there are two prominent ones, one of whom I honestly thought was a Toreador at first, and still honestly could have been, because Malkavians don't have a monopoly on insanity among vampires.
Children.
Yeah. And of course, I have run a Sabbat game where there was plenty of opportunity to go slightly mad for various reasons. It wasn't a typical Sabbat game of the era because, you know, so many people were on Path of Cain. But that's a game where the human mind, trapped in a vampire body, can very much, you know, develop some disorders. And over the years, they've gone a little more into that side as opposed to just letting it stay with the Malkavians as editions have gone on.
I think they realized that when they started Malkavians are more or less the only ones allowed to be insane, and then they had the Brujas, basically the punks and all your others, and they realized, wait a minute, punks can appreciate beauty, but then we have these guys over here.
Yeah, and
I keep wanting to say Toreador, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong.
it might be. I mean, I can see no reason a Toreador would have any bulwark against madness. In fact, one of the Malkavian characters, I'm not even completely sure they're Malkavian. They could still be a Toreador in Bloodlines. It's just a very obviously insane character.
Yeah, well, no, I was talking about when I was saying this vampire loves beauty, but is obviously isn't part of this clan. I was like, that was Toreador, right? I don't remember.
Game wise, they balance their whole thing with, you know, attributes that kind of favor it. I mean, they've got Auspex, Obfuscate, and Dominate in most versions. That's their spread now, I believe, in 5th edition, because they dropped Demontation and just said, oh, it's combo powers for Dominate.
Yeah.
Which I actually prefer for that case. I don't like every rule rework they've done for 5th edition, but that one works pretty well.
So, let's focus the lens a little. What is a example of a mental illness we've seen done in media that we think was actually pretty accurate, or at least was done right in our opinion?
Well, I think I kind of already covered mine with Moon Knight.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. In case you couldn't tell, my specific flavor of madness, or at least usually what I end up finding or being attracted to, is usually sociopathy.
Antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah, it wasn't obvious, but
Well,
that's a hard one.
I have met sociopaths in real life. I have met psychopaths in real life.
Yeah.
And, well, I feel more sorry for the psychopaths because they're born that way, and there's not a lot they can do about it.
Yeah, we've had this discussion a couple times. It's psychopath versus sociopath. The main difference is sociopath knows what they're doing and can ignore it, whereas a psychopath, that's who they are.
Well, no, from what I've spoken, it's not a matter of that. That's not what separates them. They're both effectively the same disorder. The psychopath was born that way with a chemical imbalance. The sociopath gets that way for whatever reason. Some people just do a bunch of crap and rationalize it away, like someone with a dropping humanity rating in vampires. Some people go through severe trauma, and I think you could make a very good game response that humanity can drop as a result of things being done to you as opposed to done by you.
Oh yeah.
Well, see, I've always heard that the difference isn't. It's not so much where it developed; it's how it's presented. And kind of like Caden said, a sociopath knows what they are doing is wrong, but doesn't care.
You could honestly say that about a psychopath.
No, a psychopath, by definition, does not know the difference between right and wrong.
They can learn. That's why they have things.
That's my point. A psychopath doesn't know, unless told, doesn't know right from wrong. A sociopath does.
And it's not so much right and wrong, it's more of the empathy.
Yes, that's why there is cognitive morality and cognitive empathy. A psychopath can, in theory, it's like be told, okay, this is wrong, please don't do this. Society as a whole, while you may not innately care about society, would prefer you not do this. It is in your best interest to not piss society off.
Yeah.
And that's how a psychopath develops. Again, cognitive morality and cognitive empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have to be told that. Whereas a sociopath will look at it and say, okay, I know that killing this person is wrong. I don't fucking care. I don't care if it's right or wrong. I want to do it, and I'm going to do it.
They at least at one point understood it was wrong. Whether they may have stopped caring. You're right.
It's like I said, that's the point though. It's the right versus wrong. Like, oh, I could steal this person's. Well, for example, I could steal this person's. I could steal this person's stuff. I could steal this equipment. I know that it's wrong, but I don't care.
And the two of them, when you talk to a psychopath versus when you talk to a sociopath, the psychopaths have always seemed to be a little more developed because they learned early on, hey, acting like my true me is going to lead me to a bad time when people react to that.
Yeah.
But see, that's the other thing. That's the nefarious part of a sociopath is they might be showing their true selves. They might not be. The defining characteristic a lot of times, other than the choosing to show a lack of empathy, is the develop of a mask. And it is so good, you don't know whether or not that's the real them.
Yeah. Because again, they, the whole part about not caring right from wrong, they can lie to your face and be 100% convincing. And a lot of them do that in order to blend in. So you have the problem of you don't know that this you have no real way of knowing that this person is or it's not a sociopath until they expose themselves by doing something and just.
I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's very hard to find one that was played well.
We've all heard Dexter, but I haven't seen enough of it to form an opinion.
Dexter, I will not say is a sociopath. He is psychotic. Because he is described as it was a trauma-based response, and it developed, and then later when Harry gave him the rules, he chose to play by them. So I count that as a psychopath.
I honestly looked at it as compulsion.
Yeah, and that's what it is. A lot of people out there are going, well, what about Patrick Bateman? Isn't he a sociopath? No, because Patrick has a decent mask, but again, we don't know, was he born like this? Was it trauma? Is it even real? Because part of the big mystery of American Psycho is, did he actually do what he say he did? Or is it all a delusion in his head?
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think is overlooked in that one is exactly how much of his life is just fabrication. I mean, he's always, it's especially with his job and the way you have to behave in that. You have to promote everything as if you are the best.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you have to make that 100% believable. So you have to believe it. It's kind of like the Seinfeld quote from Costanza. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah. And he even hints towards it in his beginning monologue when, in the movie when he's doing the skincare routine where he says there is an image of Patrick Bateman, but if you were to look closer, there's nothing there. Which, it goes on to the end of the story. Okay, well, if there's an image of Patrick Bateman and he's saying that he's lying to them to present this image of a professional businessman who's very calm, very collected, likes the ritzy things in life, has the girlfriend with the fake tits and everything else. But then he's telling us that he secretly went back to his apartment, had a threesome with some hookers, murdered them with a chainsaw, and then drove an axe through his coworker's head. Well, which one is the lie? Which one's more likely?
Yeah.
I don't care how much you're paying for that condo, someone would have noticed. But that's why, I love, that's an interesting word to use here, but I love finding examples of good sociopathy in media, but it's very hard to find one that's played out, to where it's not blurring a line or dabbling in other illnesses.
Yeah.
I mean, Norman Bates is completely psychotic. There is absolutely no debate that he is a psychopath, flat out.
Or at least a part of him is. Assuming the dissociative identity disorder is real, then it's like, well...
Yeah, exactly.
But see,
at which point...
Even with him believing that he murdered these people, it's one of those things where it's like, he knew that it was wrong and that he had to cover it up.
Are we talking about Patrick still?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like, I can't just, I have to cover this up. I have to make sure that nobody is able to track any of this to me. So it was the idea that he did know that it was wrong.
Yeah. And then we've got little things like the ATM with the feed me a cat. Well, that doesn't sound like a sociopath. It sounds like you're having a psychotic break.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I just looked up, because I wasn't entirely sure about it, but it's so being psychotic does not necessarily make you a psychopath.
No. There is psychotic breaks, there's psychosis, there's temporary psychosis.
Now, another example that I would say as far as a psychopath is, or actually, no, I guess he would be a sociopath, would be Hannibal Lecter.
Yes.
Because,
Hannibal would be a sociopath.
Yeah, because he understands that, hey, cutting somebody up and eating them is wrong. This is not something that you should do in society. But he doesn't care.
And they do try and give him that morality in the backstory where, his sister was murdered and secretly served to him, and he just developed it from that. Well, he still knew. They revealed what had happened. He chose to keep doing it.
It was caused by trauma, and his rationalization of how to deal with that trauma resulted in, well, his PTSD and antisocial personality disorder all in one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he basically said, fuck it, in for a penny, in for a pound.
That is some powerful rationalization on a dark level.
But see, that's honestly what we were going over it last time. That is what part of a good villain is to me. Is they don't need a rationalization. And if you give them a rationalization, you don't have to make it humanize them. Like, they don't have to have trauma and all this family history and abuse and, oh, poor pitiful me. No, just give them one bad thing that happened to them, even if it's something minor. And then just have their entire rationale for everything else that they do just be, fuck it.
That is literally the rationalization I've heard from a sociopath I met.
I was told by a teacher that I show sociopathic tendencies and share traits with several well-known psychopaths and serial killers.
And in this case, this person who definitely did sociopath things when I said, well, that person was just, minding their business there. And he said, well, fuck them. That's my philosophy. And it's like, well, yeah, I should have listened, because that's what the guy turned out to be. All the rationalization they needed.
Yep. So one example that I was pulling up, and I was going to use it as an example, I actually went into not diagnosis, but studies, like possible diagnosis over characters through franchises. And I started doing Misery. And I realized that, yeah, okay, everyone's going to be like, oh, Annie's the crazy one, but Paul wasn't sane. Paul was not innocent in that story, and a lot of people overlooked that. I'm waiting for conjecture first.
Right.
I just hate taking over conversations.
I'm not really sure on that, because that's one of those areas where I don't know much. I don't know much about the subject matter. So
specifically Misery, or
yeah.
I have never watched the movie myself,
so it's not just the movie; it's also the book.
Right.
And everyone's going, okay, well, Annie's obviously the crazy one because she kidnapped an author and she's hobbled him and she's psychotically obsessed. Like, she's Yandere 1.0. All right, I'll give you that. Except if you look deeper, what did I put? I'm just going to read directly from what I wrote down. Was Annie Wilkins marked psychopathy with maladaptive coping mechanisms, delusions of innocence, and a hero complex. Due to repeated religious overtones presented in key areas may in fact be evidence that hero complex is developing or has already developed to a messiah complex. Really subtle shit, but, you know, it's fascinating when you read it like that. But then everyone's like, well, Paul's just a victim. I was like, no. This is Paul Sheldon, marked control complex, evidenced by stated preference of equipment and tools of craft. Note that while two examples, i.e. the grade of paper and typewriter, were deliberate and used as stalling tactics, evidence that these preferences and demands had been made in the past well before his abductions was present. And then drug addiction and PTSD developed due to trauma and physical abuse at the hands of Annie. How many times do we actually look at the what happened after the story?
Yeah.
I should have warned you, if you get into psychology or sociology, that is the point where I will probably just go absolute batshit.
Why do we need a warning?
Oh no, I was just saying, there's a reason it was my focus in school, because I absolutely love the subject. I've always been fascinated by it. Let's see, what else do we got? I've got examples from Heathers and Assassin's Creed and Repo and Persona 5.
Now, I will say, I'm kind of curious as far as your examples of Assassin's Creed.
Oh, the Assassin's Creed is flat out stated in the narrative. Let me see here. Assassin's Creed, the bleeding effect from the animus transfers skills and knowledge from ancestors to the host, causing disassociation from self, reality, schizophrenia, loss of identity, and extreme paranoia. Because, you know, what was it? The first game they had Subject 6, I can't remember his name, but that was his whole storyline, was he was put in the animus and kept in the animus, and eventually he couldn't tell what was real, what was his ancestor, and he got very paranoid. And then when he realized, you know, the Apple of Eden and Juno and all that, he started rambling and raving, and a lot of it was true, yes, but there was a very healthy dose of paranoia and just conspiracy theory in there.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered with the Assassin's Creed. It's like, how, you know, it's like how the hell do you keep? How do you put people into this without being like, you know, without them being like, okay, wait a second, who am I really? Am I me? Am I this person? What's?
Yeah, and you know, they tried explaining that throughout the game. Like, they flat out stated, I think, through Black Flag and Rogue, where when you go in the Animus, you are supposed to be under a strict time limit. Because after that time limit, the bleeding effect starts to get worse, and you'll start experiencing breaks in reality. Where you'll be running around as Desmond for a while, and then out of nowhere, suddenly you think you're Ezio, and start screaming about the Pope and the patriarchy and God knows what else Ezio ever rebelled against.
I'm pretty sure just about everything.
Ezio just looked at everything and was like, "Oh, is that authority? No." Is that a god? Fuck it, I'm Italian. But I think the most interesting part, actually, you know, wondering about that, is what would it be like to be able to go back to your ancestors' time, relive their memories, have all the knowledge and skills they had, but then you have to come back to the present day and you realize you still have all that knowledge, You still have the memories. You still have all the skills. Your body knows how to do it, but your body hasn't been trained to do it.
Yeah.
The muscle memory is missing.
No, the muscle memory would be there. It's the actual muscle ability.
Ah.
You would know how to parkour, but if you just went up and tried to jump roof to roof and tuck and roll, your body has not been trained to do that. You're going to injure yourself.
Yeah.
So in your head, like, I know how to do this. I know it's going to work. It'll be fine. And then you do it, and you're not fine.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like going back and saying, okay, you know, your one of your ancestors was a bodybuilder, able to lift hundreds of pounds, no problem. Mentally, you know what you're doing. You know, you may even have that okay, I know how to do it safely and properly, but your actual muscle development isn't there. So, you know, your body, you know, you may have memories of lifting, you know, 300 pounds. You may know how to do it safely and stuff like that, but your muscles, your joints, your tendons, everything has never done that before.
I mean, really, we can simplify it and just go to the Matrix. You know, you pulled Neo out, and his first question was, why do my eyes hurt? Because you've never used them. Actually, the better question for Neo would have been, why do my eyes work?
Yeah.
Why is your, you know, palate of your mouth not atrophied? So he shouldn't have been able to speak like a person who's been in a coma.
Yeah. And, you know, you learn a foreign language. You could know exactly how to pronounce a word. You know exactly where to put your tongue, how to do it. But if you haven't done it before, you're not going to be able to pronounce it perfectly. So he shouldn't have even been able to speak perfect English, but we need narrative.
Well, I think that's the point where I think that's one of the reasons why I was questioning the use of the term muscle memory. Because muscle memory is supposed to be your muscles have done this over and over and over and over again to the point where they know how to they know how to do it.
Well, yeah,
but through the bleeding effect, your muscles have never actually done this. So would it actually be muscle memory? Because your muscles have never done it before, so how would they have that memory?
Muscle memory is very misleading. So it would still be the same thing. It's not so much that your muscles, yeah, they haven't done it physically, but, you know, mind over matter, they would still know where to be placed and everything, but because they haven't had the training, they wouldn't be strong enough to do it. So, for example, I used to be a drummer. I was a percussionist all through school. I still remember how to do all that. I still remember how to hold the sticks, how to do my paradiddles, everything. But because I haven't done it in years, there's no way I'm going to be able to, because I got to build back up and work towards it again. This makes me think that we still could be very scary had we ever chosen to put our knowledge to use. How do they put it is, I don't know a lot about one thing, but I know a little about a lot of things.
See, you're getting close to pointing out a often misused quote.
Jack of all trades is better than a master of none.
Jack of all trades, Master of none is better than a master of only one.
Yep. Well, that's like, what is it? Blood is thicker than water. That one's also misused.
Yeah.
Adopted person, it's a strange thing to hear at all.
I always thought it sounded off, but I never actually thought about it. Because I was like, blood is thicker than water. Well, no shit. That's just like basic hydrodynamics. I was like, what does that have to do with anything? And then I heard the full quote and I was like, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, because it's actually blood. The blood of the covenant.
Thicker than the water of the womb.
Yeah.
Also words we live by.
Yeah, there's a lot of sayings like that that's just like, no, that's you're using that all wrong.
Do I want to jump in the creepy, unlightable, seemingly bottomless pit?
Are you really asking, or are you wanting justification?
No, I'm actually asking because this is Assassin's Creed, so I enter the room with the giant bottomless pit, and it doesn't seem like there's any other way out. And it being Assassin's Creed, I know there probably is something in this pit, but do I really want to jump in? Oh well, it's called a leap of faith for a reason. Oh, there's a lot of silica. Well, if it's that bright, why couldn't I see it?
I don't know. I haven't. After the Desmond stuff, I couldn't really get into any of the other Assassin's Creed games.
I only played Origins because I got really bored and I was like, you know what? I used to like Assassin's Creed. I'll just ignore the story. I don't even care. And thankfully I did, because when I saw that it was a random woman with absolutely no idea what she's doing, like apparently she works for or alongside of Stergo, and then she just hooks up a portable animus to a random mummy she found. And she's like, yeah, I can access their memories and play it. I was like, what? When did this become a thing?
Wait a second now.
I was like, you always had to be like related to the person. You had to have their genetic sequence. How can you just plug it into a mummy and be like, video game?
Yeah,
And
well...
oh, now I want his wife's memories. I was like, what?
Well, I think if I remember right, that was that was the big point with Black Flag. Was Abstergo was finding a way to was working on finding a way to make it so that you don't have to be part of the lineage.
Yeah.
So they were able to take some of the information that they were able to gather from the Animus and basically put it into a video game so that people could play them. And they'd still get all this information and stuff like that. They didn't need to find somebody who was related to the person.
I mean, I don't know which actually irritated me more. The fact that I saw that and I was like, okay, I didn't actually finish Rogue, so I don't know what happened at the end of it. But I can accept, okay, random mummy, plug it in, play the memories. Sure, whatever. But then they give him his Hidden Blade, and they're acting like it's the upgraded version that Ezio had. Because he just slaps it on and goes, and it's like, okay, well, this is supposed to be the beginning. So if they had that since the beginning, why did we suddenly have to go to the you have to take off your ring finger version? That was answered later in the game when he tried to use it and actually cut off his ring finger.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I was about to get angry at a moment. Okay, so look away from bleeding effects. What were you saying?
I was just saying, yeah, that was one of those, they found convenient ways to get around some things. Other things, it's like, wait a sec, what are you doing here?
Well, yeah, because like when they did the whole, oh well, Desmond's dead. And it was like, okay, and they're like, but we're gonna release another Assassin's Creed. But Desmond's dead, and you told us that he is of the bloodline. So, like, how are we doing that? Oh well, we got a new person. Okay.
I mean, my question is, it's like, how lucky, it's like, I don't think they ever really addressed exactly how lucky the human race in general is. Because it should be, you think about it, it's like, what's the likelihood of this lineage actually managing to stay intact? It's like,
yeah,
nobody, none of the ancestors anywhere along the line were like, oh, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to pass on having kids.
I mean, especially Ezio, because they're like, he knows almost everything. He knows about Juno, he knows about Desmond, he knows about all this other crap. He's the best assassin in history. It's like, and he still chose to have descendants.
It's just always that's one of those things that always just kind of like, wait, really? It's like, I mean, even not even just so much the fact that he chose, but it's like, what's the it's like, not only did they have kids, but they all of their kids survived. It's like, how many lineages didn't, were there in that time period, but just didn't make it. They didn't make it to today. I mean, not everybody's like Genghis Khan.
Also, so many fantasy stories have done this. Oh, they're descended from Adam and Eve. Okay.
That's
So every bloodline.
Well, if you want to get technical about it, yeah.
So yes, everybody is, but when they're like, no, every bloodline on Earth is a direct, no breaks, no other families. It's like, how? Explain.
Well,
But to be fair, I'm also kind of iffy on the whole Genesis thing anyways, because Adam and Eve had kids and then their kids had kids, but there was still only one woman on Earth.
well, they had kids, but there were only 3. I think there were only like 3 that were specifically named.
Okay, but that still brings the point of, you had Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve begat Cain and Abel, and then Cain and Abel had kids, but there was never another woman
That was named. That was named. It doesn't mean that that they never had a female child. There were 3 males that were named. If I remember right, it was Cain, it was Abel, and there was a Seth, if I remember right.
Seth appears in some, but not always.
But the fact of the matter is that, they go, they didn't specifically say, oh, and there was also Abigail and Ruth and this and this. It's,
Well, yeah, but what I'm getting at is, okay, so if there is a sister, if there's only Eve and their sister, where are they getting children from?
but see, that's the thing. You're still stopping. For some reason, you are stopping counting when there is no evidence that you should be stopping.
I looked. I mean, I never go really deep in the road anyways. It was like, you know what? We'll take it on faith. That's what we have to do. Because the only other named woman, as far as I am aware, that is still not taught in every sect is Lilith. But at that point, she was in the land of Nod.
Yeah, but like I said, it's one of those things where it's like they don't tell you every child. You're assuming that they tell you about every child that Adam and Eve had. No, they're telling you about the ones that are important enough to have stories about them.
Anyways, moving off that topic. We could go for hours with that one.
Yeah.
Oh, what else did I bring up? You know what? How did I not think of Firefly?
Ooh, yeah.
I actually am ashamed that I did not think of Firefly.
And honestly, as tempting as it is to just talk about River, if you look at the whole crew, oh gods.
Well, I mean, let's see. We've got River with her kookiness. We'll just leave that right now. We've got Mal and Zoe with war flashbacks and PTSD. Jane is several shades of something.
Yeah.
Like, the most balanced is actually Wash, and even he admits that.
Yeah?
And even being the most balanced of a messed up group, that's not saying much.
Yeah, but they never go into, like, Wash's specific eccentricity or, like, what makes him really able to deal with it, other than the fact that he's with Zoe and he's the pilot. It's like, okay, but what unhingedness do you have that allows you to mesh with them as well?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there was that whole episode, was it War Stories? Where he just...
Flashback episode?
Yeah, where he and Mal are getting tortured. No, War Stories is the one where they get the body, isn't it?
Gods, it's been so long.
Whichever. The one where he and Mal are getting tortured, he flat out says, he's like, I mean, I'm not like you. I don't have the war stories. I don't have the psychic powers like River. I'm not a educated man like Simon. I'm not crazy like Jane. I was like, okay, but what are you? This is your establishing breakthrough moment. He's the heart.
I don't know. I maybe that may have been one of the things that they're like, oh, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll talk about this, in season 2, and kind of holding off on that.
Yeah, and then season 2. And then everyone thought, hey, they're making a movie. They'll explain it in the movie.
They will.
I mean, yeah, they might have, but so about that Wash guy you love so much.
Yeah, that's again one of those shows that I didn't get into it when it was out. I just kind of like, I don't know. I never really got into it. It always kind of just, I don't know. It always just kind of felt weird to me. Because it almost, to me, it felt very much like it was. And I know people have said this before, but it really felt like somebody took a look at Star Wars and was like, hey, that Han Solo character, he's pretty cool. We're gonna make everybody Han Solo. It's like that just it's not a great idea.
It's not how any of this works.
You have no straight person for them to work off of.
Who was the straight man of Star Wars?
In theory, I think it was supposed to be Luke, but
I mean, Luke was the one that was just, he was kind of just this, he was the innocent kid that was just, he believed in doing the right thing, and that was kind of his whole deal. I mean, he never, at least in the original series, at least as far as the original series, he didn't have any, he wasn't like he wasn't trying to use anybody or anything like that, so.
Before Luke just went, you know what? I think I'll go gray for a while. Wait, we did it though. We accomplished the goal.
What's that?
We stayed on topic for a half episode.
Ah.
combine all the bits of it where we were on topic.
I was gonna say, for the most part, we did.
Well, I mean, even our side tracks, unlike normal, they actually had to do with the topic. Like, they dovetailed right back in. So now I'm curious, what do you guys think makes a good villain?
That's a tricky one for me, because it's like a good villain can be a lot of different things, really. For example, a good villain can be a villain that is at least kind of understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But a good villain doesn't have to be somebody who's understandable. One of the movies that I've seen a few reviews for recently is Puss in Boots: The Final Witch, and Big Jack Horner. And he doesn't have much of a reason. He is just a villain. He is just he is just an evil guy, period. And I think, and it's one of those things where it's like, that can be a good villain can just be somebody who is just evil. It depends on what you do with the villain.
I think a good example of a villain that people like, but isn't necessarily relatable, is probably from Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Actually, both Alan Wake and American Nightmare. He just gets more screen time in American Nightmare. But Mr. Scratch, the mysterious dark side to Alan, who doesn't really have a reason for being the way he is other than he wants to wreck Alan's life. But everybody loves him because he's just so adorable. They're like, no, he's horrendous. He on-screen murders people. And, he flat out tells you he wants to, ruin your life and make you go insane so he can take over and do whatever it is he wants to do after that. But he's just so fun.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I mean. It's like, everybody's like, oh no, a villain has to be understandable. It's like, no, they don't. It's like, you look at you look at the going back to Star Wars. You look at the original Star Wars. Was Vader relatable?
No.
No,
Nope.
he was just a villain.
Vader was a blank slate. I mean, because they didn't really do any of the overtones of, well, we shall not say. They didn't give you any hint as to who he was, why he was following the Emperor, if he was even actually loyal to the Empire. He was just this big, scary thing in a suit with a sword.
Yeah. Hell, you look at the at Just a New Hope. He wasn't even second in command of the Empire in that one.
Yeah, he was just some random enforcer that the Emperor sent.
Yeah, I mean, hell, Grand Moff Tarkin ordered him around.
Well, that's what I'll say. You know, you got Tarkin's line of like, you know, you may be the Emperor's dog or whatever it was. It's like, okay, so somebody's standing up to him. Like, everybody else is clearly terrified, but obviously he's not like the terrifying thing.
Yeah, I mean, hell, he walks, you know, I think it was the first time we see Grand Moff Tarkin. He walks in and just looks at Vader and says, "Release him." Boom,
Yeah.
as you wish. It's like, yeah, dude, he is Tarkin's bitch.
It makes you think back to when he said, "You, my friend, old friend, are all that is left of their religion." Or some line like that. It's been a while.
But yeah, it's just like, you know, of course that was before, you know, Lucas actually had much of a plan for going beyond, hey, I want to make a sci-fi movie.
A movie I should have brought up for the last podcast is actually George Lucas in Love.
Okay.
They made it out to be a semi-fictional drama or dramatization, but it was supposed to be the story of how George Lucas wrote Star Wars, including like basing Yoda off his roommate who just got high as shit. It would say semi-spiritual stuff. He got the idea of a Sith from a professor he hated, who was like, the Sith deals in absolutes, was because he told him, you either pass or fail. There is nothing else in my class.
Oh, so the do or do not, there is no try.
Yeah, exactly.
There were things that, I don't know. Okay, when he talks about the lightsaber and says, "Such a Jedi weapon." And of course, you know, since Vader is a former Jedi, he obviously still uses a lightsaber. So it felt weird when several prequels later, he's suddenly whirling around with the damn thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think the point of that, the what he was, see, there is, at least in the extra stuff, there is an explanation for why he was, you know, why his lightsaber was very much not a Jedi weapon. His was made of like extremely rare and prohibitively expensive materials,
So that he was able to hide it in that statue.
Well, even when he was being trained, it was, this is not the weapon of a humble person. This is the weapon of an absolute egomaniac, narcissist asshole.
Which is hilarious because he's not even the Darth that's named after that.
I was just like, I thought he was talking about the concept of lightsabers in general in Return of the Jedi.
No, I think what he was doing was he was looking at it and the construction and stuff like that. There's, you know, it's the you know, the very simple construction, the very humble construction, the very, you know, the very,
Yeah. And to be fair, I can see why you could take it the other way, because at that point, again, he hasn't pulled out his saber.
Right.
And when he does show that he's going to attack, He just straight up uses the Force. He's like, aha, you thought you knew everything. Well, guess what? I can summon lightning, bitch.
Yeah.
So be it, Jedi. And then, yeah.
I always wondered, did Luke know about that? Like, did Yoda warn him? Or was he just like, oh shit, what the hell?
Well, have you ever read the novelization of Return of the Jedi, I mean?
I
See,
have.
The novelization's changed over time. In the novelization of A New Hope, the Emperor shows up, but he's portrayed as more of a puppet than anything. And, it's a very different character. Return of the Jedi, there's a scene that, doesn't make it into the movie, where Palpatine just looks at Luke and mockingly, trying to sound like Yoda, says, "So, Yoda, lives he still?" Luke refuses to answer, but the look on his face gives it away. And Palpatine just smirks and goes, lives he not?
Honestly, that's what I wanted more of. We just needed more of him enjoying himself.
Yeah. just let him be an evil bastard. That's all we need.
Well, again, that goes back to the let a monster be a monster.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, you can have a villain that's supposed to be all serious and, whatever you want to say. Sure. And there's places for that. But if you're just writing a villain and you don't give them a backstory whatsoever and they're just, eviling left and right, just let them be. Let them do their thing.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the monster in question.
Well, it also depends on were they evil to start with, or did we do that whole, I'm a betrayer and everything's great, and like one that did it horribly, or one that did it well, honestly, despite some of the flaws of the movie, is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Dorian was never anything but smug. And then when he reveals himself as a villain, you're just like, yeah, that tracks, because he's always been looking like that. He's just the smug bastard.
Yeah.
There was an old anime called Orgus. It was only 6 episodes long, and one of the characters was a prince that is thought to be so mentally disabled as to be below the intelligence level of a 3-year-old. He then, suddenly all his relatives die mysteriously, and they're about to crown him king, and he just, lets off a smirk and says, "Thank you all! Yes, what a pity all my family are dead. Now here's what we're going to do." It's like, that took the whole audience by surprise. There was no hint. I went back and rewound and thought, yeah, I have to wonder if they suddenly changed the plot midway through while they were writing it.
Okay.
I mean, and then in some cases they try to salvage it, and you can see where it's been tried to be salvaged, and great. It's great for shock once, but then when you watch it again, you're just like, oh, that's horrible. Case in point, let's go to Disney. Let's go to Frozen.
Okay, I need to take a real quick break, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be away for a moment.
Okay. No, yeah, Frozen and Hans. Like, sure, when you first see it, oh no, shocking. Like, never would have guessed it.
But then yeah,
you're like, wait. Yeah, even for a Disney prince, this guy has no idea who the hell she is.
And when you listen to his part of the song, "I've been searching for a place."
Yeah, like, she's talking about a person, he's talking about the kingdom.
Now, with Palpatine, they did go back into his origins eventually with, I think they did novels for him as Darth Sidious, another one for his master as Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an odd way. I mean, they pretty much established that Palpatine has pretty much always been just not someone you can really sympathize with. So they've at least kept that. A wild gamers appears.
Yeah, wow.
There's
Marshall-
another.
I see how it is. I step away for just a moment, and then
Exactly.
some random Canadian walks in.
Right, that was my master plan all along.
I told you can't turn your back. The fucking Canadians will take the ship.
Exactly, right? We're just plotting silently. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
That's good. I'm just deciding. So my birthday is tomorrow, and I was sent a bunch of birthday money. So I was deciding what I want to get for a game. I'm thinking between Jedi Survivor and Dead Island 2. So trying to figure that out.
That's a tough call there.
It is, right? So, but yeah, how was everybody's Easter? I haven't talked to you guys in a while.
I'm trying to remember if I even did anything for Easter.
Fair enough.
I mean,
Yeah.
these days, most holidays, it's like, okay, really the only difference for me, it's like, if I need to go to the store, do I need to do it before that day, or are the stores going to be open and stuff like that? It's like, that's about it.
Yeah.
Joys
Fair
of being
enough.
self-employed, where it's like, yeah, most holidays are just another day.
Yeah.
It's also just a symptom of growing older, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not as effective as when you were kids. These holidays nowadays is just hanging out with family mainly.
It's that horrible, what is that? The horror of being known, but for time. Because once you're aware of the passage of time, you're just like, oh shit, well, it's another day.
Pretty much.
Oh damn! Is that time? Is the year almost over already? What the? What? No!
Yeah.
I was sitting there watching ads, and they're like, we're halfway to Halloween. I'm like, no, we're not. We're only into. Oh shit, it's almost May.
Yeah.
Glorious.
That's funny. So I noticed that I'm taking Roger's job in this
Yep.
in this image. Fair enough. But yeah, I noticed you were talking about Alan Wake. That was definitely one of my favorite games. It was definitely very unique. And as a matter of fact, he's making a sequel to Alan Wake. It's supposed to be out, I think, next year. Alan Wake 2, I think it's called.
I had a
And
feeling
then,
you had
yeah,
played me.
yeah. Well, yeah. I feel like American Nightmare? Was that what it was called? I feel like that one was kind of like I don't know. I felt like it was not really a part of the main story. It was kind of like a side story almost. Because I feel like Alan Wake 2 is going to be a direct continuation of Alan Wake. Also, Star Trek Resurgence is supposed to be out May 5th. Now, I don't know if that's going to get delayed another year or another couple of months or not, or what, because it's been delayed so much. And so it's kind of odd that they just came out of the blue and said, oh, it's definitely going to be May 5th. But the company that's making the game hasn't had any talk with anybody. Like that, their Twitter has been like dead silent for like over a year now. And then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, no, it's going to be out May 5th. And so everyone's having their doubts. They're like, It's been delayed multiple times already. I don't know if it's going to be May 5th. I hope it is, because it looks like a stunning game. And we haven't had a really good Star Trek game since like 25th anniversary and Judgment Rights.
Oh gods, I remember those.
Yeah, like I mean, every other Star Trek game has been like a space combat, and this one is going back to its roots, where you're beaming onto planets. It's a point-and-click adventure game with modern-day visuals. It looks amazing. From the gameplay I've seen, it looks stunning, and you have complete free roam of the ship. So it's not like it's not linear. I mean, okay, I guess it is linear, but I mean it's more open world linear, where you can like just explore the ship and you can mess around in the holodeck. You can even take out a shuttle, and at one point you even get to walk on the saucer section of the ship in an EVA suit. So it looks pretty cool. And it's made by former Telltale Games employees, so it's in pretty good hands, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to feel about the Star Wars Survivor game. I haven't seen much about it recently.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. I mean, I hope that they don't go down the road of, oh hey, it's another Dark Souls in space type thing.
Yeah. I know that the one thing a lot of people don't want from it is the backtracking. That's what a lot of people hated about the first game was, oh yeah, okay, so go to this planet, go here, do this, and then go to another planet, but then you have to go back to the previous planet and then back to this planet again. And it was like you were going back and forth so much between planets, because it's like suddenly you found out new information. You have to go back to the previous planet. It's like, well, couldn't we have done all this the first time around? Suddenly we find out on our sensors there's a hidden Jedi temple that we walked over the entire time.
Yeah. And that's one of those, they only created, it's a problem of creating only a few planets, and it's like, okay, but
that's the one thing I hope they don't do with the sequel. I hated that in old school adventure games back in the day. I hated backtracking, and bringing that into modern times is just like, I'd rather just like, once I'm done with a planet, I don't want to go back to it. That'd be like me going back to planets in No Man's Sky after. I don't know. I'm good. Once I've done mining a planet of all its resources, I can move on. But yeah. Anything you guys are looking forward to game-wise? Or?
I still pine for Bloodlines 2. I still question Street Fighter 6.
I still
yeah.
Street Fighter in this day and age.
You still what?
Did I still question Street Fighter in this day and age?
Yeah, it seems kind of oddly placed, and I found it funny at E3. All my friends were like, "Oh man, the new Street Fighter," and I'm like, "Okay." There's so many better games out there that I'm interested in. Street Fighter.
I am that bastard who would still happily walk into an arcade and play Street Fighter 2, but that said, the last Street Fighter offering, 5, was just kind of like, it never felt finished. We're moving on to 6, and it's like, did you even put any effort into 5? You don't get any pudding until you serve us your meat. That came out horribly, and I couldn't be more proud of it.
And we have our innuendo for the night.
Now, the other thing is, I've been hearing a lot of, it's on sale right now, and I was contemplating getting it until I read the reviews, but Vampire the Masquerade, I think it's like Bird Song or Blood Song or something like that. Swan Song, that's it. Have you heard it? Have you played that one? Is it any good? Is it? A lot of people... Go ahead.
I'm tempted only for one reason, and that is, part of me wants what they throw in, and that's a copy of Boston by Night.
So the only reason you're interested in it is
to get the book.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Oh,
I am a strange person. I will freely admit this.
All right. See, I heard a lot of people who were reviewing it, a lot of gamers who were reviewing it. Now, of course, game review sites are saying, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's a 7 out of 10." But then the actual gamers are like, there's no combat, like at all. There is absolutely no combat. It's like a detective style adventure game almost.
Like a choose your own adventure with maybe some quick time events.
I think so, something like that. There's apparently all your choices matter, a la Mass Effect. I mean, supposedly. We all know how it went with Mass Effect and how all your choices mattered. In the end, they kind of really didn't.
Well,
I mean, they did. Go ahead.
Once you got to Mass Effect 3, that's where.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's where your choices really do wind up mattering.
It's more of the you made this choice.
Once
they
they fixed it anyway. Like, when it
Yeah.
first came out and they didn't fix it, your choices really didn't matter all that much. It was like, oh, you remember all those choices you made all along? Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Well, with Morden's loyalty mission in 2, it's like, well, do you keep the information or do you get rid of it? If you keep it, then the female Krogan is able to survive.
Mhm.
If not, she's dead.
Yep.
And a lot of choices
What
like that really were really the focal point. It's like that was it's like it took a while.
Like, I understood those kind of things. What I was referring to was the end game result. Like, I mean, all of your choices all along didn't really affect the ending of the game all too much. It was either choose.
The ending was just the ending was just. It was a choice. It was a choice.
I'll never forget when EA rushed BioWare to shoot out the game, so they never got to put in the proper ending, and so they added the proper ending as a free DLC. But then when they were getting ready to add it as a free DLC, EA's like, "Oh no, free, no, we should charge for this DLC of a proper ending." And BioWare went, if you're gonna charge for an ending for our game, we're not gonna work with you anymore. And so EA finally bent and said, "Okay, fine."
Yeah, it's like, hey, it's you may be distributing it. It's still our game. Let's not fuck. People aren't going to be looking at you for as far as the content. As far as what the content is. They're going to be looking at us.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
Yeah.
We're doing it our way.
Exactly.
Does anybody wonder if EA had a board meeting where they were going to put out another EA sports game, but you just had to buy all your points? It's like, you got a goal. You don't get your points till you buy them.
I'm going to say something horrible here. I want a year where the video game industry, and I know that this is going to put the indie developers out of it for a bit, has to release their games on cartridges on a cheap, easy-to-purchase system. Just so that they can't suddenly say, "Oh, we'll fix it in a patch." No, you have to give us a complete game in one shot.
You want a retro year where we go back like to the 2600.
Maybe. I mean, I as a person who was raised on ColecoVision with an Atari 2600 adapter, that is tempting. It would also, show us, hey, what can we stuff into a cartridge now? But I digress. I would just like to see a group actually test their freaking game. Push the release date back if you have to. We dealt with this when I was a kid. I can't tell you how long I waited on Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. But the end is, I'm aware I am very much in a small camp here, worth it.
Right. I recently, I want to say less than a month ago, picked up Ken and Roberta Williams' Colossal Cave remake. And it's interesting. So, first of all, the game, when it came out, I think it was like $40. And then Ken Williams realized, he sent out an email to everybody who was on like his watch list for Colossal Cave or whatever. And I noticed that I got a refund on PlayStation Store, and I was like, "What's this refund for?" Then I get an email from Ken Williams. He says in the email, "I didn't realize that games are no longer $100, and that most people want to pay like $20 for a game. So I had to lower the cost of Colossal Cave because a lot of gamers weren't willing to spend like $50 to $60 on my Colossal Cave game." And I'm like, "Yeah, well." It's not exactly a AAA game. And you can definitely tell that Ken Williams did all the writing because like the main menu of the game, there's a extras menu, there's an extras menu, and in it is just Roberta Williams' bio. It's just Ken and Roberta Williams' bio on all the games they've done and everything, and I'm like, oh yeah. for all of the gamers who don't know who Ken and Roberta Williams are, I guess. But for the rest of us, it's like, oh, we know. We grew up. They were our family, pretty much.
Yeah, but the thing is there's a lot of people that are like, wait, who?
Yeah, oh, I know.
What are these games?
It bothers me, man.
Don Bluth and see how many blank stares you get.
Right? I bet you half the modern gamers don't even know what Dragon Age or what was the other one? Space Ace.
Pretty sure they know what Dragon Age is. Dragon's Lair, on the other hand.
Dragon Age.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Dragon's Lair, that's what I meant. Yeah, so Dragon Age.
I was gonna say, I'm like, Dragon Age. What, huh?
Or its sequel, Dragon's Lair 2, Time Warp.
The dialogue.
I got to play that machine.
Can we just go back to being cheesy and having the announcer announce the titles just so we can have somebody dramatically yelling the, like, whatever the title is, 2 in space?
Be very careful with what we would get. God of War in space.
Okay, that would be hilarious because I want to see Kratos do half the shit he's normally doing in zero gravity.
Oh, it gets better. Midway through, he accidentally crosses over with Jason X.
Yeah, there you go. That's their Easter egg.
They've both fought in Mortal Kombat, so why not?
I have the perfect setup. You've got Kratos. He's stolen the chariot from Apollo again. He's going around the Earth, and then out of nowhere, a fucking meteor hits him.
What?
It's Uber Jason.
Oh my god. Jesus. But yeah, you can definitely tell that Roberta Williams made the Colossal Cave remake because it's got a lot of her elements from Sierra in it. And it's got the, I'm sure some of you grew up or played the original Colossal Cave, the old text-based adventure game that was from the 70s. And which had no graphics. It was just, just a text-based game. And so Roberta obviously brought it into modern times with, I don't want to say next-gen visuals, because it looks like something that was made in Unity, poorly in Unity, but it's still pretty good. But the thing I noticed right away is her inventory system from Sierra games, which was very prominent, and the fact that she had a narrator. So every step you make in the game, you've only got two icons, a look and interact. And when you look, you got the narrator narrating what you see on the screen, which was very reminiscent of, King's Quest, Space Quest, and all that kind of stuff. So it's neat that she kind of took the premise of the original Colossal Cave, but she kind of added her own take to it. And I think she added additional scenes to the game as well that weren't in the original. But a lot of the overall gameplay just is very similar to Sierra's classic point-and-click adventure games.
That's not terribly surprising. Those have been making a comeback for a few years now.
Thank God. We need some of those again.
And the number
those are my favorite.
Yeah, the number of people that with like Thimbleweed Park, they're like, oh, what's that? Oh
yeah.
Or Paradigm or something like that. That they're just like, oh, this is an interesting style. It's like, yeah, that used to be all we had.
Right? And I hope more and more classic adventure games either make a comeback or get remasters or something, because being able to play the remasters of like Full Throttle and Day of the Tentacle and stuff like that. And I kind of want to see more. And I know it's going to be impossible, but I would love to see a remaster of Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
That
I just
game
don't-
felt weird.
It was weird, but I mean, at the same time, it was something that I kind of grew up with, so I'd like to see a remake of that. But granted, the rights to that are owned by Disney, and I can't see Disney okaying that. I know that there was a fan who made an I think you can still find the playable demo of it, but he made a fan-made remake of Indiana Jones: The Fate of Atlantis in 4K visuals with voice acting, and it looks stunning.
Now just to interject here, the voice acting, there was a version that was released from LucasArts that actually did have the voice acting.
There was. I actually have a demo of it.
Yeah.
No, that's no, I know that's the game I originally had. The CD version of Indiana Jones: The Fate of Atlantis with voice acting. But what I'm saying is that this fan-made remake had his own voice acting. He didn't like take the samples from the original game, is what I mean. It's his own voice acting. He hired his own voice actors, and there was a good. The demo that he had went all the way up to when you met Mr. Costa and I think Costa Rica or wherever the hell it was, and you were trying to get Plato's Lost Dialogue, and if you guys played the game and the original game, and that's where the demo kind of ended. And he was the creators were like, oh yeah, no, we're still working on the game and everything like that. And then a few years later, nothing. And so I went to their Facebook page, their websites and everything, no new updates. So I contacted them on Facebook Messenger and I said, what's going on here? And they said, oh yeah, Disney slapped us with a cease and desist. I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess I should have expected that, but it would have been nice.
Now, as far as doing a new game for Indiana Jones and stuff like that,
There's one coming out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, if somebody were to license it to do a remake of Fate of Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see much of a problem with that. I don't think Disney would have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, they are more than willing to be like, oh no, you guys go ahead and just, you if you license it, you can do it. And that's the problem, is it has to be licensed.
Exactly. He never licensed it. This guy was just like a fan. He's like, oh, we could use a fan-made remake. And he wasn't going to charge for it either. It was just going to be a full game. You downloaded it off his website when it was done. But Disney did not like that idea at all.
Yeah.
Now, there is a upcoming Indiana Jones game coming out using Unreal Engine 5. And I've already seen some of the graphics of that and it looks stunning. I think that comes out either at the end of this year or beginning of next year. It's going to be a Xbox Series X and S exclusive, but will also be on PC. I don't know what kind of game it is, though. I don't know if it's going to be like the original Indiana Jones style, the Tomb Raider style Indiana Jones games, or what. I'm hoping that'll be at least some adventure game elements of some kind.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. It looks really good from the screenshot that I saw. Actually, I could probably find a screenshot of it.
I mean, I can't see them doing. I mean, that's what trying to get away from that is what really killed the Indiana Jones game franchise back in the day. It was they tried doing the like tank control action platformer type thing.
Several games in one thing.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
Last Crusade for 8-bit Nintendo.
I mean, no, this one was like it was completely new. I don't remember what the hell he was after. It was like, yeah, it was like this platformer, third person tank controls, and it was a mess.
Jesus.
Still remember the voices, though, from that demo I got as a kid. Think of tanks that use this. Think of planes. No, General, think big like the Americans.
Oh God, yeah.
Think a bomb.
Oh yeah, the voice acting was really bad.
But it stuck with you.
Yeah, no, it did. The voice actors for the Germans were absolutely they just sound like Americans with really bad German accents. And also that doctor, he sounded like one of the chipmunks with a German accent. He had a really weird voice.
Alvin, Simon, Theodore.
Yeah. Think big like the Americans. Think of bombs. That's literally how he talked. I'm just like, oh, okay. Right. Just give me a sec here. I'm trying to see if I can find a screenshot of the upcoming Indiana Jones game.
I will say, one of the Star Wars things that I'm really looking forward to is I'm really looking forward to see what they do with the Ahsoka series. Because that one's going to fill a void in Star Wars that has needed filling for a while. Because that's the one where they're actually going to bring Grand Admiral Thrawn back, but in their live action stuff.
I'm so glad.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. What were you saying?
I said I'm so glad we got our innuendo out of the way earlier.
Wait.
You are talking about voids and filling.
When did we limit the number of innuendos we can have?
Oh no, it's just we always have at least one big one. Like that's our starting off point. So it's like once we get that out of the way, everything's fine.
See, you say that, you give me a hard time, and then oh no, we always have our big one. Really?
There's a big one. That's not an innuendo. If I was being lewd, I would have used another word.
It wasn't intentional, but I mean,
Cobras.
Come on. When have you ever stopped with just one big one?
Well, that depends. Sometimes I'm tired.
The upcoming RoboCop game also looks really nice. That comes out. Well, it was originally supposed to come out in June. It's got delayed until September, I think now. But from the screenshots and the gameplay I've seen of that looks stunning. Open world Detroit, and they got Peter Weller voicing RoboCop, the original voice actor, or the original actor, I should say. So that looks really
not
nice.
Surprising. That's not terribly surprising to me, because like Peter Weller he's generally a pretty chill guy.
Yeah, no, I know. He voiced RoboCop in the Mortal Kombat 11. He was a playable character.
Yep.
He was pretty good in that. But the screenshots for this upcoming RoboCop game, just wow. You can definitely tell they're using Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, I'm always a little hesitant as to take screenshots at face value, because it's like, okay, are they?
You can edit it.
Yeah,
yes.
it's one of those things where it's like, is that actual game footage? Is that a cutscene, or is it something that they specially rendered on like just for the trailer? It's like,
Yeah, no, I get that, because quite a few developers have lied about the finished product.
Yeah, like I said, it's just a matter of, oh well, we want to show off the best it could be, and it's like, okay, if you have a $10,000 to $20,000 machine, yeah, this is what it's gonna look like. It's like, otherwise, it's not going to look that good. It's not going to look as good. It'll still look pretty decent, but like their recent update for Cyberpunk 2077, that in order to make use of it, you have to have an NVIDIA 4080 or something like that. It's like,
Oh my god.
yeah, it's fucking crazy.
For what?
The most recent update, for Cyberpunk 2077, their special, like,
Yeah. You're talking about the DLC that's coming out?
No, I'm talking about what they've already released. The like 20 gig deal.
Okay.
It's not ray tracing. It's one step basically past ray tracing. But it's literally, it was, hey, you know, it's gonna make the game look amazing. But in order to really make use of it, you have to have like an NVIDIA 4080.
Jesus.
And even then, it's
crazy.
like it might kind of lag you down a bit. It's like, why are you doing something to such a specific card? And it's just, yeah, it was. I saw somebody showing off the differences and stuff. That like, yeah, but your average player is not going to be able to use it. Not without like draining it down to like 10 frames per second or something stupid like that. It's like, so it's like, yeah, a lot of times that's what they do though, is they say, oh, hey, this is it's gonna look amazing, provided that you have a really, really good graphics card. Otherwise, yeah, it'll look decent.
Yeah. I can't seem to find that screenshot. So, but anyway, it was a really neat screenshot of Indiana Jones's face and using Unreal Engine 5, and it looked just like Harrison Ford. So it was really cool. So I don't know if Harrison Ford signed off on his likeness or not, but if that screenshot is anything to judge by, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But if that screenshot is anything to judge by, he probably signed off on his likeness for the game.
Yeah, that's one of those things though. You have to remember is they don't necessarily need to anymore.
True.
Depending on where their last contract was with Disney. Disney owns their likeness as far as specific properties. Like they can use Mark Hamill's without his permission for anything Star Wars related.
Yeah.
And with the fact that they're currently doing, they're currently finishing up and getting ready to release an Indiana Jones film, I would imagine he's probably wound up signing an agreement saying, yeah, you can use my likeness for any Indiana Jones property.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I do have to say one thing, as far as the actual topic for tonight, I'm kind of surprised that nobody, that we didn't get into the whole, oh, well, there's just, the basic stuff, like, oh, hey, the hero complex and survivor's guilt that's done in just about every single game ever.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna go like, hey, let's go into specifics. Like, what's a specific, illness, disorder, or trait that's constantly represented? But I was like, I don't know if they want to get that deep. We don't really do deep around here.
I don't know about that. we just tend to try and avoid like painfully obvious generalities.
Yeah.
Kind of like how last week when we were talking about the vaults and stuff, we're like, okay, we're gonna avoid like, the control vaults and stuff like that. It's like that would have been the easy answer for just about everything. Well, except for how they turned out. I don't think there's a single control vault that turned out the way it was actually supposed to.
Technically, I think, what one was it? 83 was in the base game of Fallout 4?
Fallout 4 was the base one?
Yeah. That vault that you had to like go to the ends of the earth to find, and then it turns out they are actually the descendants of the original vault dwellers. The one we were talking about, their experiment was half of it was technically a control vault because they were trying to find the new cures for humanity, and then they had the secret.
I don't know.
We're actually infecting them with everything.
I don't think that was considered a control vault, because a control vault is like no experiments whatsoever. Just
yeah. I was. How is that the one that managed to actually survive?
That's a good question.
Like, you had all the control vaults and they failed for some reason, one reason or another. I mean, technically, did Vault 13 fail?
It kind of did because of a shipping error. Like, they knew that the water chips were prone to that Vault 13 were prone to failure, and they were supposed to ship Vault 13 a shitload of water control chips, but they went to the wrong vault.
Yeah.
You find that out in Vault in Fallout 2. Then of course there's the fact that, it didn't really turn out well for the inhabitants of Vault 13.
I sent a photo to the chat that you guys might all get a kick out of.
Ah, yes.
Oh boy.
That is the biggest argument between me and my sister, is the accuracy of Imperial troops. I'm of the camp, yeah, it's just hilarious that they are quoted as the best marksman in the galaxy. And yet
They can't see. The actors can't see anything in those suits either, because like there's one scene, and I had to rewatch the original trilogy to see if it was true or not, and it is. There's one scene near the beginning of the movie where a whole bunch of the Imperial stormtroopers are. It's around the part where Darth Vader finds Princess Leia on the Tanda V4, and a whole bunch of troopers are walking in the door, and there's like a lead trooper, and right behind him is another trooper, and that trooper, as he's walking in through the door, he whacks his foot off the door and just about falls over. And George Lucas left the scene in the movie. He's like, "Oh, that's fine." He's like, "It's okay. It seems to suit the troopers." And so you just see this poor stormtrooper just about go flying backwards. It's so dumb. And apparently it's because the vision in those helmets is ridiculous. They can't see a damn thing.
Well, it's the meta.
It gets worse though.
Oh gosh.
It gets worse. in the special edition, they
Mhm.
added a louder bonk noise to that specific scene, to that specific part.
Oh yeah, they have the like hand sound effects.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, that's the meta. It's like, oh, you can see, but I'm just like, no. You look at every scene in the original trilogy, they can't hit shit.
No.
And it's like, no. They actually are the best marksmen in the galaxy. They're choosing not to hit their target. It's like,
Okay.
if that makes
sense. Yeah, that totally
like-
makes sense.
I mean,
Okay.
that's the problem is, the problem I see is, it's not so much that it's really not so much the problem that they can't hit their target. It's the only time you really see them shooting at anybody is they're shooting at the main characters. You know, the people that are never going to get shot.
Yeah, I know. That was my point. Is like, we don't have a definitive battle for that to happen. She's like, well, what about indoor? I was like, what about indoor? You're fighting like 3-foot little teddy bears that live in the woods. They have the advantage.
But there's also the point of the psychological aspect.
And that's what she.
Yeah, the reason that stormtroopers generally get shot, whereas the people that they're shooting at don't, is the stormtroopers don't look like people.
Yeah.
They look like robots. So it's like, okay, I'm not actually, you know, the psychological aspect is, okay, well, I'm not actually shooting at a person. I'm shooting at, you know, like a robot or something. It's not a big deal. But if you can see the person's face and you can recognize them as human, without very, very harsh training, you're not going to actually hit the person.
Yeah, and that's kind of what she's going on, is like, oh, well, you know, they remember what it was like before they were stormtroopers and all that, so they're choosing not to hit them because they don't actually want to be doing this. They don't want to shoot them. I was like, yeah, okay. We're just going to risk pissing off the two most powerful dark wizards in the galaxy.
Yeah, but you have to understand also that the likelihood of actually bumping into one of them is actually drawing attention to yourself is kind of unlikely.
But yeah, I've been lately playing. I don't know if you guys have heard of it's an FMV game, really good. It was, I believe, it was a Kickstarter, not for broadcast, and it's one of the best FMV games I've ever played. Very British humor, very much like Monty Python style humor, but it's a parody of the news, and so you play this news editor, and so your job is to edit the news live as it's going out on the air. So you have a ratings menu at the top of the screen. You never want to get your ratings down to the red, otherwise you get fired from your job. And you have to keep the ratings in the green. And so you have to, you know, cut between cameras, you know, beep out the swearing if there's swearing and stuff like that. But the funny thing is just the humor of it all is just the best part of the game. Like, it's all live action video, obviously. And like, there's one scene where the news anchor is interviewing the chief of police at his home, and they're talking about, like, you know, security elements that need to be enforced in the city or whatever. And as the police chief is talking about how security elements need to be enforced, blah blah blah, his closet door opens behind him and a gimp falls out, and then he just turns around and he's like, oh, excuse me, hold on, and he calls over his wife and he goes, bloody hell, the gimp's escaped from the closet again. So his wife comes in with a whip and she's whipping him back into the closet, and this is all happening live on the news, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, it totally is Monty Python type humor, and it's so funny. And if you grew up with that kind of humor, it's going to be fantastic to just play, because there's so much silliness involved in this game.
I'd heard about that game when it came out, but it was like, I was looking at it, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to spend money on something like that. It's like,
It's really good because it gets darker as the game progresses. Near the beginning, it's all lighthearted and funny, but as the game progresses, it I don't want to ruin too much, but it gets really dark, and almost, I don't want to say horror based, but certainly thriller based, if anything. It's honestly really good, and the amount of free DLC they've added to it since its release has made it more than worth it, because there's the main story, which is, I want to say, 20 to 30 hours long, and then aside from that, there is DLCs where the one is set in the 1940s, and you're in charge of a station in the 1940s, and there's another one which is ghost related, and you're following around this crew who are exploring a haunted house, and you have to, but it's really cool. Like all of the DLCs that they've released, the free DLCs that they've released, and they have 2 more coming out this year. And apparently the developers are stating that they're going to be supporting the game for quite a while, because they have so many ideas for future DLC for this game. So it's still the beginning. If anything, there's a lot more content there that they're expecting to release within the next year or 2.
yeah, for me, the problem I had with it wasn't it was partially the timing of when it came out, because it was like everybody was trying to capture that idea of, hey, we want to be the next Papers, Please. Kind of that, you have all of this, you have all of this stuff that you're trying to juggle and keep track of, and you have to do a good job, or and stuff like that, or if you get too many bad reviews or stuff like that, well, you're gonna get fired. It's like, yeah, it's just, that's I think that's the biggest problem that it really had when it came out, was it was like everybody's like, we're getting kind of tired of the Papers, Please treatment, and we need something new.
No, they did make a mode where you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, it's going to make the game a hell of a lot easier, but there is a story mode that you can access in the difficulty setting, which forgoes the ratings dropping. So the ratings won't drop, and you can just play the game at your own leisure and not have to worry about those kind of elements, and not have to worry about getting fired, but still be able to enjoy the game. So they do have that in there, because some people just wanted a casual experience and not have to worry about this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
So they do account for that for those kind of gamers who just want a laid back experience and not have to worry about screwing up anything.
That is one thing that I've kind of realized with some of the Let's Plays that I do. It's like, I can appreciate the struggle and stuff like that, but it's like way too many games seem to have a lot of grinding these days. And it's like,
yes,
I'm not here to it's like, especially when you're doing a Let's Play, it's like, I don't want to just sit here and grind something. I just want to get on with the story missions and just.
Yes, I agree. That was, I think, my biggest issue when I did Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know how many episodes your stream for Cyberpunk was, but mine was up to 15. I think 15 or 16 streams of Cyberpunk before I finally finished the game, and that was because I was covering not just the main story, but all of the side content. And forgetting, how many episodes of a stream that would be.
Well, see, for me, that wasn't the problem I didn't have a problem with it with Cyberpunk, because simply because the fact that it wasn't just grinding, it was, you were actually doing story missions, and these were plotted out and stuff.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is like, okay, with Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, it's like, okay, in order to upgrade this, in order to do this, in order to have a successful chance at this mission, you're going to need to go around and you're going to need to mine up this, you're going to need to accumulate money somehow which means you're going to have to do a lot of missions that they have really nothing to do with, with the story of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the point where for me, it's like,
that can certainly be a pain for streamers. That's why I feel like more modern games that have the grindy element to it need to maybe have a mode where it takes away the grinding element in case you are a live streamer and want to just play the game for its story and not have to worry about all of the grinding elements that make the game, like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, the only big game that I ever found that lately is the Hogwarts game, where it's very grindy, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm streaming it that, God, it's going to be like 20-30 episodes long, and I'm thinking like, I'm almost thinking at this point, is it really worth it? Because like the game is just so damn long, and I'm just like, I don't know. I love it and everything, but it's just like, I don't know if it's stream material at this point.
Yeah, it's I mean, for me, it's like, as long as you have, if there's story or lore in a mission, cool. But when you get to the point where it's like, oh, well, basically you're just running around collecting a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Or doing a bunch of, oh, hey, go here, get rid of all of these mines. Go here and get rid of this. Go here and do this. We're not gonna. There's no story. There's no lore. There's no nothing other than busy work to get you ready for the next actual story mission. It's like, it doesn't have to tie in with the main storyline. It just has to be a story, a decently compelling story.
Yeah, which is where I guess that game differs from the Wing Commander games, because I don't ever remember the Wing Commander games being grindy. It was just like basically cutscene, then shoot a bunch of people, cutscene, shoot.
Well, you're thinking the mainline Wing Commander series games.
Yes.
This one was modeled after Wing Commander Privateer.
See, I don't know if I played much of Privateer or not.
It was very much like this. It was very much like Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. Yeah. It had all the controls of Wing Commander, but you were literally just a privateer. How you made your money, where you spent your money and stuff like that was totally up to you. There were storylines and stuff like that, but it's like, yeah, you still needed to accumulate a certain amount of money in order to be able to buy a better ship. I mean, down to you start off with a ship with one gun and no jump drive, and that's where you're starting off. It's like that they did a very good job of recapturing that, but it's like, but it was, even the original game was very grindy. So it's like, yeah, it's not really streaming style unless you're using like a trainer or something where it's like, hey, I'm not taking any damage. Just no damage. I'm not going to explode. And even then, well, that's questionable, because if there's, if you run into enough asteroids, you will still explode. If you jump through a risky jump gate without a shielded drive, there's a chance you are just gonna, how did they put it? Rapid, unscheduled disassembly. I think it's how Musk and his SpaceX team decided to term that.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I wanted to ask, because I haven't... Wing Commander Privateer, was that the one that had Christopher Walken in it?
No, that was Privateer 2, The Darkening.
Oh, okay. All right. So Privateer 2, The Darkening, was that similar to Privateer 1? Was it as grindy or not so much?
I don't really remember, because I didn't really get into that one as much.
Okay. Because I know that one was more FMV based than Privateer 1, I think.
Yeah, that one was just weird in general.
Yeah. I found there was the one that you recommended to me that I ended up grabbing. Wing Commander. I have to look it on my Prophecy. Yeah, I found that was an interesting one. Just how miserable, just how miserable Mark Hamill was in it. I mean, I understand the character and how all the bullshit he's had to go through, but it was just kind of funny how you're like, there's like one scene near the beginning of the game where you are talking to Mark Hamill's character. I'm trying to remember his name. Not Maniac. Anyway.
Maverick.
Maverick. Thank you. You're talking to Maverick, and he's like a general or something, or something like that. And he's just so miserable. You can tell that he's just like, get out of my face. I don't want to even look at you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm just here because I'm forced to be here.
Well, that was literally what the character was going through.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been promoted to an admiral. He's no longer a fighter pilot, even though that is where he wants to be. He wants to be back out there. The mission where it's like, okay, fine, you can go out into battle and do your thing. It's like, all right, now we're fucking talking.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. It's a shame that not many people know about the Wing Commander games, though. Like, I mean, it's so funny, like talking to friends or something like that, and bringing up like playing as an example Star Wars Squadrons and saying to them, "Oh, this game kind of reminds me. Certain elements of it reminding me of Wing Commander," and they're like, "Huh? What's that?" I'm like, "Oh no."
Remind you of what?
Yeah. What? What are you? Is that Klingon? What are you speaking?
Fucking kids.
Right? Yeah.
This is where we all get out our canes.
All get out our canes. Back in my day.
No, I've decided if I'm gonna be any kind of a cranky old man, it is gonna be the Red Foreman. Just, kid, you don't know shit. You're a dumbass. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, there you go. Followed by get the hell off my lawn.
I had that experience yesterday. I had that, oh my god, you are dumbass moment yesterday. So
please tell.
So going out to the stores, 3 different stores. Started off at Meijer. Didn't go too bad until I hit the checkout, where there was one supervisor, one manager, and one employee sitting all in the same area, because they apparently had some kind of a screw up with one of their checkout lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm waiting for one of them to come by and help me get the hell out of the store. And I swear they sat there and talked amongst themselves for like 5 fucking minutes. And I'm just
fantastic.
Like, they were like, it was the next checkout kiosk over from me, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Am I invisible? What the shit? I wasn't quite to the point of losing it yet until I got to the liquor store. I went in, got one of their $10 big jugs of vodka.
Mm-hmm.
Get to the checkout lane. Okay, yeah, here's the little loyalty card that you have for your store. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready to insert my payment card, and I'm just sitting there. I look up, and he's just staring at me. I'm like, what? Well, I need to see your ID, sir. I'm like, really? All right, fine. I get my ID out, show it to him. He's like, oh, sorry. I thought it might have been hair dye. And I'm like, you really think that somebody's gonna dye like some of their hair very haphazardly? They're gonna dye their fucking facial hair for a $10 bottle of fucking vodka.
How old was this person?
I have no idea, but
my God.
he was
Yeah.
younger.
Okay.
But
Let's see if we're going over that. A young kid would be easy to spot because they wouldn't be buying the fucking $10 bottle.
yeah, they'd be like, "No, give me the good stuff." It's like the good stuff isn't that isn't really that good, but
That's funny.
but no, finally it's just I'm like I swipe my card, reached over. It's one of those where it's like the receipt prints out like back at the far end, away from the door.
What?
So I'm already reached over, waiting for it to print up. It prints up. I snag it off. He's like, "Your receipts." I'm like, "I've already got it, dumbass." And just snagged up the bottle and walked out the door. I'm like, it's just, yeah, it's
Maybe he's new. You never
fucking
know.
people. No, it's
Like, I gotta do everything right.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but if the person appears to be over 40 years old, you don't have to fucking check their goddamn ID. And the
Is
fact
he trying to
that it's-
compliment you, saying that you look like you dyed your hair?
I don't know. It's like I guess some people might be like, "Oh, well, at least he thinks that I'm under 21." It's like there's no fucking way anybody is thinking that I'm under 21.
Different places, different rules. I mean, when I was checking IDs at Anime Central, because of course I was in charge of the hentai rooms, it didn't matter how old you looked. Like, you could have gray hair, look like your social security number is 2. I still had to check your ID and your convention pass.
Fair.
And we were basically told it's a state law. If we get caught not doing it, yeah, there's going to be issues. So that could have been what was going on with this kid.
Well, that's the thing. I've been going there for months now. I have never had to, I've never been carded there.
I told you, corporate was there. He had to do everything by the book to make it look good.
Actually, that could be. That could be. Never thought of that.
Very possible.
I don't think so.
Hush, we're trying to give the kid a break.
Yeah.
The kid's
Well,
a
it's either.
dumbass.
Yeah, I was about to say it's either that corporate was there or the kid's mentally challenged.
The kid is just a dumbass. Just accept the fact that the kid's a dumbass. It's like this is you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like having, you know, it's kind of like having Mel Brooks walk into a liquor store and get fucking carded. That's the type of mentality. It's like, no, the guy looks like he's 110.
So, are you ready for the humble brag of the family? This is my family's actual humble brag because we all worked at the local theme park, King's Dominion.
Okay.
Well, that was owned by Paramount back in the day. Yes, celebrities would often come in, and my sister got put on bartending at one point when the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company was put in. She not only got to card Harrison Ford and Tom Hanks, but also Britney Spears. So yeah, celebrity comes in with my family, we're still gonna be like, ID. You know who I am. I don't give a fuck who you are. I'm doing this right. I'm not getting fired over you.
No, like at least around here, no, stores like that, they do not have to. I've worked in stores like that. They do not have to card everyone. I mean, you know, if you know, most of them these days, it's, but it as far as the age limit, the age limit has generally been for stores like that. If they look like they are 40 years old or older, you don't need to card them.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's like you don't really need, it's use your judgment. You can bypass it. It's not a huge deal. Unless, of course, you bypass somebody who is under 21. Then you're in trouble. But it's like, use your best judgment. This was not the kid's best judgment. But then I get the problem is that my day didn't end there. My shitty day didn't end there. I wind up going over to Sam's to, one of the things that I wanted to get was I wanted to get one of their 10-pound bags of frozen chicken breasts. I go in there. It's like, okay, a 10-pound bag of frozen chicken breasts usually ran about like $19, $20. They don't have them anymore. Now they have 6-pound bags, all individually wrapped chicken breasts. 6-pound bag for $23. And I at that point I'm standing there, I'm like, and I'm staring at that and literally saying, wait, so I'm paying more money for less chicken, but more plastic. Why? Just, it's shit like that it's just like, really? How? I swear, people just are fucking stupid. It's like shit like that is just annoying as hell.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. Yeah.
That's the point. It's like, for me, it's not like, oh, well, get my cane and oh, I'm so old. No, it's like it doesn't make me feel old so much as it just pisses me off. It's like stupid shit like that just pisses me off.
I got one you might like. Or hate.
Okay.
A few years ago, I'm picking up gas after a pizza shift. I'm going to the gas station right by my house. You know the place.
Yeah.
And I go inside, I prepay cash because I'm a pizza driver. Of course I'm doing cash for my gas. It just makes more sense. I pump my gas. It's like, I want to say I pumped 7 after handing over a 20, so I'm owed about $13 change. I'm driving a Prius, hence I'm not really paying much. But I go back in, and the dumb shit I handed the cash to is trying to tell me that the money will go back to my card. I remind her that less than 5 minutes earlier, I handed her a 20. She says, yes, you did. Then what card are you talking about?
Magic card.
Apparently. Now, there is some sort of customer card this place uses, but I'm like, I do not have this card you speak of. I would like my cash, please. She keeps saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. Now, we all know that this is, quite frankly, not possible at all. Like, if you cannot change cash, if you can accept cash, you can give change at a retail location. I mean, what the hell happens if I walk in and try to buy potato chips and don't have a card? Do they try and put that on my card too? So I call the bluff. And I start dialing the police. I get my change in seconds. It's proof that, yeah, some thieves think they're geniuses, but think you're a moron. When the reality, the opposite is extremely true. I pity anyone who got taken by this woman. But I did deal with her boss a few days later, who told me about the customer card, and I explained, then why did she give me cash back the second I told her I had, or why didn't she give me cash back when I told her I had no card and no card was involved? There's no real... He said, I don't have an explanation for that. And I said, well, I do. She was trying to steal money. And thought that other people would be dumber than her. And was incorrect.
Hmm.
This, by the way, is one of my main experiences with sociopaths. They think everyone around them is a moron.
Yes.
When in reality, oh gods.
Well, I mean, they're not. I hate to say it, but they're not wrong.
And let me rephrase that. They think they're smarter than everyone around them.
Okay, that's better. I was gonna say because most people are morons. That's
To quote George Carlin, think of how stupid the average person is, and remember, half of them are dumber than that.
Yep.
But yes, it's like you confront them with the fact that you're not dumb, that stupid, and you break their reality. Kind of sad.
Yeah. I unfortunately haven't had to deal with anything like that in stores. I have had to deal with really stupid customers when I used to work retail, but that's about it. But I think we've all had to deal with that.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the weirdest one I ever was asked when I worked at the Source, which is like basically a subsidiary of Circuit City in Canada, and this guy came in, and this was around the time when Blu-ray players were just starting to be a thing, I guess. And he was asking me questions about the Blu-ray player, and he asked me if Blu-ray players can play records, like vinyl records. Like, no, it's a blue. What, do you want a record player? Like,
There's always going to be someone. And
yeah.
one I got you'll get a kick out of was while I was at Gumby's Pizza. Oh, do we remember Gumby's Pizza? Someone ordered triple beef. We told them it's going to be greasy. Are you okay with this? Yes, it's the pizza. Why is it so greasy? It's triple beef. You may as well ask, why is the pizza, not freezing? Or why is the water wet? I don't know. I've dealt with quite a bit of stupidity in my time.
Why is the water wet? Why do I picture that being an actual thing somebody would actually say?
Okay, so not only is why is water wet an actual question, they had a professor of chemistry actually explain water is wet. But not if you only have a single water molecule, only when you have multitudes.
Yeah.
fair enough.
No, as we're talking about the morons and all that shit, I'm just reminded of that video I stumbled across last week about the kids who planned and executed a murder, and the oldest of them was sitting in the police interrogation room making demands. He's like, you're going to release them to my custody, or you're going to release them to her parents. But when you release her parents, and then you're going to do a DNA test and a drug test, and if her parent fails either of these, you will release them into this custody. And if you don't, I will release my bipolar. And I was like, the cringe is so hard.
How old was this kid?
22.
What the hell, ass balls?
Oh, better yet,
We'll
here's
release
the story. He was the 22-year-old friend of a 19-year-old who had a 15-year-old girlfriend.
What state?
Rhyme was for? What state was this?
I mean, Florida is way too easy. So
No, it's not Florida. It's one of the upper states. I don't actually. Hold on, let me look up the episode.
I mean, if you made me pick Germany or Florida, I would have said Florida in this case. But
Oh no, they were American. I just can't remember where this was. It's still on my watch later.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around I will unleash my bipolar.
Right? What the
Yeah,
hell?
don't even.
I'm going to file that one right next to I will inject the marijuanas.
All right, Ellen Fryer. That's the case we're looking for.
I feel like this kid maybe read too many Marvel comics. Bipolar man. Very concerning.
Damn it! I found the city, but I can't find the state.
Well, what's the city?
Medford.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Well, that's the
Pennsylvania?
thing. There's Medford in almost every state.
Oregon.
Oregon?
It's Oregon.
Yeah, it's Medford, Oregon. But
What
yeah,
about-
I was just sitting
what
here
about-
watching, and I started telling it to a friend, and they're like, "Bro, you're just telling me this. Like, I'm hearing this third hand, and I feel physically ill. I can't imagine what it must be like when you're actually in the room with that kid."
I wonder what the cops thought of all this nonsense.
Well, that was the thing, is they left him in the interrogation room alone just to see what would happen, because that's the technique. And he not only found where all the cameras were, so he's staring straight at him, delivering these demands, but then he found out that the recording device was on the table. It is basically like an Alexa disc. And he found out that if he pressed a button, he could mute it. So he's sitting there, like, playing with it. And, like, every time he thought he had something that they would want to know, he'd be like, well, I'll tell you, mute it, would go off whatever he was saying. But he's like, but only if you do this. It was just fucking insane. I was like, I don't know what the hell is wrong with this kid, but...
You know, this is the point where I really wish we could, like, institute some sort of, like, not really specific, just general, you know, just a general aptitude test for breeding.
So everybody who wants to breed has to take a test?
Yes, you have to prove that you are at least
Okay.
a semi-decent, semi-competent human being.
Well, there goes the population into the single digits.
Yeah, I was about to say,
No,
that's
I'm
half
not-
of America
I'm not
gone
talking-
right now.
No, I'm not talking genius level. I'm not talking you don't have to be a genius. You just have to be a competent, semi-decent human being.
Again, there goes half the population of the
No, I think you no. See,
Our cynicism is shining through. You're right, but at the same time, when you keep getting disappointed by the general state of humanity,
I mean, anybody who thinks that they can make demands on the police and insane demands at that, no, you're too stupid to breed.
I'll unleash my bipolar.
but you know, that kid bred. That kid bred like gangbusters.
Well, that's the thing. They got prison time, and that wasn't that long ago, so I'm pretty sure they're still serving it.
Yeah,
But
that kid.
I'm
That
sure.
kid did not breed. He is being bred.
I'm still trying to figure out why he was even involved, okay? Because, like, the whole story is the 15-year-old had just turned 16 and got the 19-year-old as a boyfriend. I was like, okay, cool. You know, around here, that's not really that weird. It's not that big of an age gap. But Dad was thoroughly against it, and he's like, you're not going to see him. No, he's too old. You're not dating till you're 18. Break it off. She got mad, so she started running away, and Mom and Dad are divorced, so when she's at Mom's house, you know, kid comes over, no one cares. When she's at Dad's house, he's sneaking and breaking in, and Dad found out. Then they decide, hey, let's just get rid of Dad. So they murder him. And then she is the worst liar I have ever seen. Like, they have her official, all the information, but they're pretending they don't. Like, anybody who knows that you're getting arrested, they know where you live. They know your name. Like, she's calling you by your name when she came in. They know who you are. So she's like, how old are you? The kid's like, 18. She's like, uh-huh. And when did you graduate? And she's like, last year, like, the class of 2017, it was 2019. So the interrogator's like, uh-huh, okay, sure.
Yeah. Like I said, that kid's not breeding, he's being bred.
Well, yeah, but the 22-year-old was just like kind of third party. Because apparently he dropped out, but then he would just like move in with different people. No, that was a 19-year-old. The 19-year-old was actually living in like 4 different people's houses all at once. He would just move from house to house to house. But like the 22-year-old was just there. And the 19-year-old was like, hey bro, you want to help me do this? It's like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the point where he's pretty much criminally stupid.
Quite literally. No, the part. Honestly,
when did this,
after they did it,
when did this happen exactly? Was this recent?
it was like 2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the best part was after they committed the crime, they then decided, hey, we got to get rid of the body. Well, obviously. So they shoved it into the trunk of the guy's car, like the father's car, stole the father's car. And then they decide, hey, we feel great. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to go out and we're going to get this guy, we're going to get the 19-year-old signed on to the 22-year-old's mental health benefits so that we get paid without actually having a job. Then we're going to go out, we're going to go to this store and buy some shit. Then we're going to go to Walmart, look directly into the security cameras while buying hair dye and candy. Then we'll get rid of the dumping the body.
Oh.
That is some interesting slacking.
Well, someone's like, it took you 4 hours from committing the crime to finally dumping the body. What?
Yeah.
And what did
video games for this one? Because if you're like, the video games made them do it, every gamer's be like, no. Everybody knows you dump the body immediately.
yeah. Hitman taught me a lot. No.
You either A, dump the body immediately, or B, you stash the body and dump it later.
Exactly. Like any Assassin's Creed gamer would be like, first of all, no.
This has suddenly become
cover.
This has suddenly become a very interesting podcast.
True crimes with us would be interesting. We wouldn't even focus on the. We'd focus on how stupid they are.
How to hide a body with all of Productions.
I'm honestly kind of surprised they didn't try and do like a weekend at Bernie's. I mean, legitimately, it's like that is about how stupid they fucking are. It's like
I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I was thinking it.
Well, no, like I was sitting here wondering, was like, wait a minute, hold on. So Oregon gives you mental health benefits for like low grade bipolar because this kid is perfectly functional aside from being an asshole. I was like, but then you're trying to get the other two signed on to your benefits without being family. Is Oregon that easy to game the system?
You know, I don't know. I know or at least I used to know a person from Oregon, but I don't know if they're even living there anymore. So, yeah, I mean, in general, my understanding is the Pacific Northwest is just a weird place.
Yeah, it's something about the pine, I swear. You know, at least if they were in Jersey, they could have blamed it on the Jersey Devil.
So did the mother know about all of this happening, or was she a part of it too?
No. The girl never said anything to her mother. In fact, they were surprised because the only person she showed any actual somewhat connection to was her sister. So she's like, just make sure my sister's okay. And they're like, what about your mom? She's like, I mean, my mom's always okay. I was like, oh, you're one of those. Blamed her mom for the divorce, but then like claimed that the only reason she said she wanted her father dead was because her father was doing things. It's like, great. Do you have evidence other than you and your friends saying, hey, he did it?
Wow.
Yeah. This goes back to the let's not get into all the ways that we could have improved this.
This is how you know that these kids were not gamers. They were just like dumb jocks, if anything. this entire thing.
I think
It's
we
a
can
mess.
safely say they are probably dumb stoners.
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing. They didn't buy any drugs. Apparently they never did drugs. And they weren't gamers. They were the outcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, no, they did do drugs, but it took her like 2.5 hours to finally admit she did pot. She's like, well, I didn't want to admit that I smoked weed because that's a crime. And the investigator's like, honey.
Like I said, dumb stoners.
I was like, this is where you drop the act, because they hadn't told her why she was booked yet. But I was like, oh my god, this is where you drop the act. So it's like, well, I didn't want to admit to smoking weed because it's a crime. Honey, you're in here for murder. Weed is the least of your problems.
Yeah.
I did always love though
Why?
back in the night. I did always love though back in the 90s and early 2000s when the media blamed every act of violence that young people committed. They would always blame it on video games.
Video
Oh,
It
games
was
were-
like, yeah. And I think one of the earliest examples of that was the controversy behind the video game Night Trap, which wasn't controversial at all. and the media, and they got Captain Kangaroo involved, and it was just a mess. And it was like they were the I think it was like the Congress or some shit, but they were saying like, oh no, this game needs to be banned, ripped off of store shelves. It's a date raping simulator. You just go around raping young co-eds. And the game developers were there at this hearing and everything, and they're like, what? what game are you talking about? That's not our game. Like, have you actually played the game? It's the lamest game you'll ever play.
Well, they tried
There's
doing the
no
same.
violence.
Yeah, they tried doing the same thing with Grand Theft Auto. The difference is that with Grand Theft Auto, like Rockstar was like full on behind it. They're like, oh yeah, go ahead, try and ban our game. Our sales are through the fucking roof because of you guys.
I was
By
about
all
to say,
means.
Hot Coffee came out and everyone's like, this is going to ruin Grand Theft Auto sales. I'm just like, no, this is going to skyrocket Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto.
But it's so funny. It's like a lot of this media seems to think that most gamers, I guess, don't have a conscience and don't know the difference between right and wrong. Just because I play a game where I'm strangling people with piano wire doesn't mean I'm just going to go out one day and be like, you know what? This guy in front of me at the register is taking too long. It's a good thing I have my piano wire.
Nobody's worried about that for you gamers. We all know that Canadians don't do that.
No, I poison them with maple syrup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it's another Canadian, hey, it's a victimless crime.
My God. Oh. It's nice like this that I wish Sin was still here. he would have something really interesting to say.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He would have sat here with me and Ollamh redoing that entire crime beat for beat.
My God.
No, see, I Sin would be like, "Oh, hey, you're finally catching up. Congratulations. Yeah. The world's going to hell in a handbasket."
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been going for, wow, almost 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Holy shit. So are we? I question actually. Are we going to do at the end of the month again another game night?
Yes.
Is that the plan?
Yes.
Sweet.
I think.
More.
What do we?
More jackpot.
One more topic video.
No, I'm pretty sure next week it's going to be the last Friday of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we're already at the 22nd tomorrow.
Today, for me.
Today, yes. No,
Today
today
for
for me too.
Yeah, so it's gonna be the last Friday, and no, yeah, the only other topic we had discussed but we hadn't slated was future of digital distribution for games.
Yes, that was Rass's suggestion, if I remember right.
Yes, it was.
Yes, that's likely to get some interesting responses.
Yeah. So that'll be the first episode in May will be
First episode in May. Let me see. The first episode in May will be me screaming my ass off. I will be 33.
Oh, come on.
I was about to. Excuse me. I'm turning 42, so tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Well, technically today.
Oh no, it's just I always laugh because I was born on the worst day. I was born on the 4th, which means not only did I get my birthday stolen by a shitty Star Wars joke, but my 21st came right before Cinco de Mayo. And I'm in Atlanta.
Hey, at least you were legal for Cinco de Mayo. I mean, could you
It's a good
imagine how
excuse.
pissed off you would have been if it had been like a day or two after?
No, you know what pissed me off? I turned 21 after I found out I have an alcohol tolerance and all it does is give me a migraine.
Oh, that's fine.
It's a good excuse. It's a good excuse to say to you, "Was the force strong with you on your birthday, young kid?"
Well, everyone's like, "Oh, come on, 21st, you gotta like binge that because you're turning 21 and then it's Cinco de Mayo." It's like, yeah, you know what's gonna happen? I'm just gonna get a migraine.
Okay, so Frong in the chat real quick says, why is there a Securitron? Because I was trying to come up with avatars for each person who isn't immediately here, basically anybody that isn't me. And I wanted to make a Securitron in Blender, so that's
Hey,
what
you never know.
happened.
Maybe one day I'll get a wild hair up my ass and find myself somewhere west.
Isn't just about anywhere west for you?
No, technically, Maryland and Delaware are still east for me.
Okay, so almost everywhere is west.
I don't want to go through Ohio.
I don't blame you. I know
Yeah.
people who live in Ohio that don't want to go through Ohio.
I wrote a story about the worst jackass I could ever imagine. You know where I made him from? Toledo. Every person who's read it, they're like, I'm from Ohio. I was like, I'm sorry. They're like, no, you captured it perfectly.
Vile water. Ah.
Oh God, it's been a long time since we've heard from him. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And to be fair, it's been a long time since we've had chat.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
I was sitting here counting off the days. I was like, okay, so gamers has been gone this long. Chat's been dead long.
Yeah, no, I was visiting family, as I said, for Easter, and my dad hasn't been doing well. He's gotten cancer, so I hadn't seen my parents in over 2 years. So I figured, it's a good opportunity. They wanted to have Easter dinner with the entire family, so I was up there for 2 weeks, and they live in the middle of nowhere, so internet is sporadic at best, if it works.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So yeah. That I would have joined the podcast last Friday, but I probably would not have been very active. I probably would have disconnected every 5 seconds. So I figured I would avoid it.
Makes sense.
For that reason. Yeah.
See, I know a lot of people that tend to listen and just kind of listen rather than chat. A lot of people tend to be shy.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's perfectly acceptable.
And then we've got people just lurk all the time.
Yeah, everybody seems to have a lot of stuff going on these days. That's just like, yeah, not great.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Did somebody leave?
Or get disconnected.
I think that would be Caden. Speak of just random disconnects and stuff. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up for now because we're now
Sounds good.
rapidly approaching 3.5 hours.
Well, it was kind of funny. You mentioned that we're almost at 3 hours now, and we're like, okay, let's continue talking.
I cannot be blamed for that.
Oh, I know.
It was group participation.
Exactly. Anyway, you guys want to say your good nights?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a wonderful night. Have a good night, Frog, and everybody else watching, and we'll see you guys soon. Tune in next week for our game night.
Raz?
Tune in tomorrow at 10 p.m. Central to WEFT 90.1 FM for Over the Edge.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm.
We should get Caden to say something.
Yeah.
But
of course,
Yes.
Caden, do you
my
want
phone
to
would
do you want
die
to say
just
anything?
then.
Do you want to say anything besides your phone's dying?
Yep, that sounds about right. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do my farewells. So,
All right.
as always,
Have a
guys,
good night, guys.
Yeah.
Nidal.
Take care.
All right, and as always, thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new here, don't forget to press the subscribe button. If you want to help the channel out, there's several options down below. remember, just sharing the live stream, sharing the videos, sharing the channel link can help out a lot as well. If you want to be kept up to date of when we go live and stuff like that, make sure to ring the bell, but also check out the social media links down below. The Facebook page, the Twitter account, the Tumblr account, and the permanent invite for the Discord server. All that so that you can stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions. Cheerio!